And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive, everybody. It's Wednesday, October 22nd. Yesterday was the appetizer. We got two games. They were fun. The first game in particular was really fun. Now, 12 games. So much garbage on this slate already. It feels like it's April. We have infinite stuff to talk about and an hour to do so. But when we're done at the end of that hour, Live Before Lock is coming up after this. 2 straight hours of coverage. Don't fret. We're going to cover everything. Like, subscribe, notification bell. We need all three of those things first. I am Josh Engelman. That is DK DFS. We're about to break down this slate. DK, what's good?
Yeah, ready to talk ball. It's been a crazy day so far, with getting ready for this 12 gamer with props and DFS. But I'm excited for it.
You and me both. It's going to be a mess. I want to say two things out of the gate, and then you and I are going to go rapid fire through these 12 games. The first thing that I want to say, this is a massive slate, and it's probably like the most high variance slate that exists for the year. Nobody really knows confidently what's happening in every rotation. These are all new teams. If you like something today, just play it. Now, I'm not saying 100% lock button some guy that, you think's in the rotation but might not be. But if you've got leans on people, there's going to be, everybody we talk about is going to be like 5% owned, save for a decent chunk of them. If you like one of those 5%ers, great. Just find the best sim ROI that you can with those 5%ers and move forward. Second, PJ Washington is a thing on DraftKings today. He is not a thing on FanDuel. DraftKings has PJ Washington priced at the flat minimum 3K. He is priced properly on FanDuel. That changes everything on the day. All path of talking about human beings is different because on DraftKings, you're going to be playing a lot more of the guys that make sense because we have so much more salary to work with. So be ready for that. PJ Washington is the closest thing to a free square that you're ever going to find. You don't normally get real starter level players priced at 3K. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Game number 1. I'm going to keep it all up on the screen with what we have on the sims. I ran simulations before we got started. I favorited the top 150 lineups with some uniques just to keep the wiggle perfect. We'll talk about that data and we'll keep ourselves moving. We're going to start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers are, last I looked, 1.5 point dogs in New York. I should refresh those lines. Interesting things going on for both of these teams today. Cleveland is missing Darius Garland. Not super helpful. They have some other dudes in and out of the lineup. They've turned over their team a little bit. Ty Jerome, not with them any longer. Is there anything standing out for you today for Cleveland against what could be a really shorthanded Knicks team, maybe just a shorthanded Knicks team, and a Cleveland team missing one of their stars?
Yeah, not a ton here. I think that you can take shots on guys like Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Neither are getting really any ownership here on this slate. With Garland and Jerome off the court last year, Donovan Mitchell had a 30.3% assist percentage. So expect him to do more ball handling tonight, have the ball in his hands more, obviously, and a little bit more usage there, too. So I think the top two guys are playable here. Evan Mobley, too, at least in the preseason, has been a little bit more aggressive looking for a shot, too. So these guys, I'm not going to talk you off them on a 12-game slate, but they don't really stand out point per dollar. I do think it's kind of tough to get to anyone else on this roster. Now, we are still waiting on the confirmation of DeAndre Hunter. I lean that he'll play, but it's not a guarantee. If he gets rolled out, could open up a little bit of value. I would assume that Jalen Tyson would start in that scenario. But yeah, right now, currently, just a little bit interested in Mitchell and Mobley. That's about it.
Coming out of the Sims, based on the run that I talked about before, Jalen Tyson is the guy sneaking into a couple lineups. We're talking about a pay down option as a small pivot to some other chalk if you're looking for it. He's 5% owned. He showed up in 15% of Sims. That's about what you want to do with that type of guy. Jalen Tyson's going to be stepping into a bigger role with Cleveland this year, or at least that's the intention for what Cleveland wants. He could also just not do that. But I like Jalen Tyson, so I'm interested there. This is going to be part of the first thing I said for the show. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, these starter dudes that play 30 minutes. Yes, you can. If you like that guy, play that guy today. Today is a little bit different. If that's the dude that you have landed on, don't think that any part of that is bad. All of those dudes are super 3 to 4 or 5% type guys for today. That's the path we take. Man, this could have been a really fun game if everybody were healthy.
Yeah, this would have been great to watch if both teams are fully healthy.
Yeah, I mean, is this the best game on the slate if they were healthy? Yeah. So San Antonio, Dallas, same sort of scenario there. I mean, Philly, Boston too, but that's a conversation for a different sort of vibe. Yeah, I mean, this is arguably the top two teams in the East, but that's not what's showing up today in New York for this one. Do you want to get to the dumb part of this?
Unfortunately, yeah.
The New York Knickerbockers. This is a team that is not very healthy right now. And maybe less healthy than we know. TBD, 7 o'clock start. In theory, we're going to know this at 6:30. This is why you watch Live Before Lock, everybody. Because when the news drops for the 6:30 injury report, the Towns news will be very, very interesting. Josh Hart is already not playing in this one. Mitchell Robinson already not playing in this one. And Karl Anthony Towns has had every injury designation today. He's been available, probable, questionable, and doubtful. What is your expectation for Karl Anthony Towns right now? We have him in, and it seems like he's playing.
Yep, I also think that he's in. So the report originally was that he was doubtful, but then they were like, oh, I'm hearing that he's still going to try to play. And now I think that he is going to play. The betting market has the same as well. So it was Cleveland -1.5 before the Cat doubtful news went public. Then the Cat doubtful news went public. It went up to like 3.5, 4, and now it's back down to 1.5. So I'm pretty sure right now that Karl Anthony Towns is going to play. It's not a guarantee, but everything I've seen, at least from the beat writers too, I think that he's going to play. Okay.
No crazy ownership here. 15% to Towns. About 15 to Bridges, around 10 for Anunoby. Newly minted Nick, or at least he will be a newly minted Nick in 2 hours. Gershon Yabusele pulling a little love. Now, Yabu is going to look amazing if Towns ends up out. If he's in, he just seems like a guy. What do you like from the Knicks today?
Yeah, well, also I'm trying to figure out if Cat plays who that fifth starter would be. It could be Yabusele, and they could go a little bit big with like Brunson, Bridges, OG, Yabusele, and Cat. Or they could go a little bit smaller and throw like one of the guards in there, like McBride or Clarkson. So I am curious about that. Against a Cleveland front court that is two bigs, maybe it is a little more likely that Yabusele starts. So assuming Cat is in, I like Cat at 8,500 with no Mitchell Robinson. The upside, in my opinion, goes up for Cat. More rebounding opportunities. So yeah, I like the upside in him. How healthy he is, I can't say, but 8,500 does feel a little bit underpriced there for Karl Anthony Towns. The two wings, I think, are both like fine filler plays for me, and Bridges and OG, both hovering around that 10 to 15% ownership range. And then, yeah, Yabusele at 3.8K. If he starts alongside Cat, I like him more. Even if he comes up the bench, I think he's still playable. Brunson at 8,600, I think is a fine tournament option there. Obviously, he looks way better if Karl Anthony Towns gets ruled out. And then, yeah, that's really about it, assuming Cat plays.
No crazy stands on these Knicks guys right now, assuming Towns is in. If you're looking at the Sims, 15% of Bridges, 15% of Towns, scattered amounts of OG, Yabu, Brunson throughout the rest of it. If you're looking for starting lineup information, everybody, there's a starting lineups page on Stokastic.com. We have all of our projected starting lineups here. We are projecting Gershon Yabusele to start alongside Towns with Anunoby, Bridges, and Brunson. But you can browse to this. It's in the NBA section. If you want to look at the starting lineups that we're projecting, they're right here. Any other interesting tidbits right now for the Knicks? Obviously, we're in a wait and see situation.
No, I don't think so.
Well, that's one in the books. Only 11 more to go. This one's less fun. We're staying in New York, sort of, although this game is in Charlotte. The Brooklyn Nets, who are 5.5 point underdogs in Charlotte, Both of these teams are awful. Neither one of them should sniff anything resembling the playoffs. Brooklyn is next level disgusting. Probably the least talented team that exists in the league. But this is DFS, ladies and gentlemen. That's not how this works. Do you like anything for Brooklyn? We have Cam Thomas here playing for his contract. Michael Porter Jr. is now here because there aren't any other players on the team to shoot. Nick Claxton, still the center. And then it's just a sea of guys that can't score. What do we do here?
Yeah, so I think Claxton's probably the easiest guy to get to. 5,500 definitely seems a little bit underpriced. I like the spot for him against the Charlotte front court. Last year, especially near the end of the year, they were kind of just taking it easy on his minutes. But I think this is a scenario where he could definitely play, 30, 32 minutes. And again, at that price point, he does feel a little bit underpriced. So I like Claxton. Again, he is getting some ownership, but I think it's warranted. And then, if you kind of just look at this roster, Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. are going to have the green light, right? That's where a lot of the usage is going to come from. Both hovering around that 10% ownership range. I think both are firmly in play for tournaments. But neither obviously guys that I'm going to go like out of my way to force in. Zaire Williams is getting a little bit of ownership right now. I think I'm okay not having that, but it's just because the slate is kind of setting up for that stars and scrubs build. Terrence Mann, 3.8K, I'm also okay just not having. Really for me, I think Claxton's the easiest guy to get to, and then a little bit of interest in those two guys I expect to be shooting a lot in Cam Thomas and in Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, this is one of those teams that's part of the peril of PJ Washington today. Like Zaire Williams is getting 10% ownership. He would look very different if this PJ Washington thing didn't exist. I kind of like Ben Saraf today as like a random punt. He stinks. Most of these guys stink, but just a guy that's, at a reasonable price point, but useless to me, given the way value's set up. You mentioned Terrence Mann as well. I do think Nick Claxton looks the best of Brooklyn. I do expect Michael Porter Jr. to shoot a bit more. I do anticipate him finding slightly less space when he tries to do that.
Agree.
I wish I had more to say about Brooklyn here, but they are very much if it's not Cam Thomas, Michael Porter Jr., or Nick Claxton, you're probably not going to be super excited about the name you click on.
Yep.
It doesn't get much better on the Charlotte side because they're also equally not a very good basketball team, but they do have more interesting names to click on when it comes to fantasy. You've got LaMelo Ball here. Brandon Miller is healthy now. Con Knipple was their first draft pick this year. Miles Bridges still here. Colin Sexton going to be a bench guard now. Ryan Kalkbrenner could be a thing today. We got 35% of Ryan Kalkbrenner when we ran the Sims. 35% of him in the top 150 lineups. He's a $3,200 center. They don't really have centers. It's him, it's Diabate, and Mason Plumlee. So there's minutes. Are you a Kalk guy?
I think he's in a little bit overowned right now. I don't know who starts between Diabate or him. They were kind of alternating in the preseason starts. I'm not sure if Mason Plumlee gets in this rotation. So it might just be Kalkbrenner and Diabate splitting the center minutes. If that is the case, I think both look a little bit better. And obviously, Kalkbrenner 3.2 as opposed to 4.5 for Diabate would be a little bit easier to get to him. So I'm curious what they're going to do with the starting lineup. But at the moment, I think Kalkbrenner is going a little bit overowned. But again, I understand why it's happening just because, again, the Peach Washington thing, again, a lot of builds are setting up for stars and scrubs. The rest of this team, no one else is really getting a ton of ownership. I think Trey Mann is an interesting pivot off of very chalky Walter Clayton Jr., who we'll talk about in a bit. 3.7K. You're going to see him and Colin Sexton come off the bench. Those guys are going to be, chucking the ball when they're out there. The top three guys, again, LaMelo, Miller, and Bridges. I think you can take shots on these guys in large field tournaments, but I think they're kind of hard to prioritize here. And then Khan at 5,100. I think that's a little bit pricey for him right now. So that's about it for Charlotte.
This team is going to be one of the worst defenses in the league because of trotting out Kalkbrenner, Diabate, Mason Plumlee. Unfortunately, the Brooklyn Nets are like the least equipped team to attack this horrific defense and lack of rim protection here. Don't click on this one on League Pass, but Ryan Kalkbrenner seems like he's going to be a bit of a guy today. We move it on to the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. Magic big favorites in this one. Orlando loaded for bear this year. Desmond Bane on the team, but we're going to start on the Miami side. Miami is without Tyler Hero in this one. That is going to be pretty damn important because they don't have much else here on offense. Norm Powell is on the Miami Heat now, and then they've got just a sea of bench dudes. The most we got of anybody from the Miami Heat today is 2% of either Davion Mitchell or Andrew Wiggins. This is going to be a slow game, and Orlando's defense is exceptional. I'm going to have a real tough time having exposure to the Miami Heat.
Yep. We got some New York Knicks news. Cat will play, barring unforeseen circumstance. And then Ariel Huckporty is expected to start in place of Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, because obviously that's going to happen. I don't think Huckporty's playable really today. I just don't think there's going to be enough minutes there for sure. Like there's 95,000 people in the big DraftKings contest tonight. If that's wants to be your stand, go for it. But this just makes me like Yabu less and Huckporty less, and oddly enough, Towns less.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. I'm curious to see what the ownership comes in on Huckporty. If he's like unowned, I'm a little bit more inclined to play. If he's going to get some ownership, then I'm okay not having him. But yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise with Huckporty starting alongside Cat. But yeah, back to Miami. I think this team is pretty uninteresting. We're still waiting on the status of Khalil Ware. He did participate in shoot-arounds. So I lean that he plays. But yeah, tough spot here. This Miami team's not great right now without Tyler Hero. Davion Mitchell, assuming he starts, I think is probably the guy with like the best 4,500 point guard, shooting guard eligible. But yeah, overall, really not a ton of interest. Now, if Ware does get ruled out, I think Bam looks a little bit better. And then like they would be in a tough spot because I don't think they want to play Vlad Golden like they haven't really in the preseason. So I think it could be a spot where like Nikola Jovic would play some small ball five if Khalil Ware gets rolled out like behind Bam. So that's just something to note. But yeah, right now again, I lean that Ware's going to play.
They've got Precious, right?
He got released.
Oh yeah, shit! I knew that. I felt like they had another big, but yeah, it is Vlad Golden, isn't it? Oof. Now, the Orlando side doesn't exactly look better, but they certainly have a lot better names to click on. Desmond Bane's going to be making his debut. Banchero is here. Franz Wagner is here. Jalen Suggs is likely here. 18% ownership coming into the Sims for Banchero, a little bit over the field. He's projected for 11. Not much else coming in here. It's just a really crappy game environment overall, and they got a lot of mouths to feed. Yeah,
this is a pretty balanced team now, especially with Desmond Bane there too. Jalen Suggs is going to play, but be limited. Obviously, we can't go there. Orlando historically runs a pretty deep rotation. I think we're going to see 10 guys in their rotation. Again, relatively low total. I don't love the pace in the game. So there's really not a ton here. I think Paolo would be the guy if I had to get to anyone here. Right now, looks like he's coming around 10%. But outside of that, there's not a ton. Wanda Carter Jr., Gogo will split the center position. I don't think it's necessary to go to either. So really just like a little bit of interest in Paolo, but that's about it.
The Philadelphia 76ers are underdogs in Boston today. These two teams are slightly different than you'd like them to be. No Paul George in this one for Philly. No Jared McCain in this one. These guys are walking wounded right now. But there's 22% ownership coming into someone from Philly, and that is VJ Edgecombe. The other guy getting love, around 15%, is an $8,700 Joel Embiid. What the hell do we do with the Sixers today?
Yeah, Embiid really intrigues me. I hope we get some clarity on playing time. So he played one preseason game this year. They did ease him back in. He didn't play full minutes. But like this could be a spot like where Embiid plays, they just let him go and they play 35 minutes. If that's the case, like he could absolutely break the slate. I think most likely he's going to be on like a limit, but not a strict one. But yeah, I'm hoping we kind of get some clarity on Embiid. What's your thoughts on him?
I love him today. Yeah. Well, how can 8,700 is just dumb? Mm-hmm. Like even if he's limited, that doesn't have to be awful. And this isn't Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum and Luke Cornett. This is Neemias Queta and Chris Boucher and Luke Garza and all these other stupid morons. Why doesn't he just smash these guys? What the hell are they going to do to stop him?
Yeah, not a lot of opposition on the other side. So I agree. I love the upside on Embiid. And then the other guy getting ownership, as you mentioned, is VJ Edgecombe. If you look at that last preseason game where there was kind of their dress rehearsal, like he was playing massive minutes. He's 5K. He's got shooting guard, small forward eligibility. He's not going to be a super high usage player playing alongside Maxey and Embiid, but I think Philly's going to run a pretty tight rotation, like 8-9 guys here. And I think Edgecombe has, 35 plus minutes for sure in his range of outcomes. So I think he's one of the better point per dollar plays right now on the slate.
I think he looks great. I would happily get around that 14 or that 20% that's coming in for him. I think he's just going to be out there, especially right now with no Paul George and no Jared McCain. We would not be having this conversation if those two guys were in, but their alternatives are Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon. And like, what the hell do they care if those guys are any good? So I'm a big believer in Edgecombe. I like him more than Ace Bailey. We could have that conversation in a couple of years if we need to, but just so everybody knows. But yeah, give me the big man at 8,700. That price is stupid. I love it. He's going to be awful. He's going to fall once and get taken out, and it's going to suck. But I can't help it. I'm going to have a ton of Embiid.
Yeah, I think right now at his current ownership is a really good play.
Now we go to this new look Boston team because I don't think we have anything else here to say about Philly. Boston is just a completely different basketball team. Half the people that were on it last year are either hurt or not on the team any longer. But we still got to talk about them today because that frees up a lot of minutes and a lot of opportunity. Jaylen Brown is 8,900. Derek White is 8,300. Derek White's 7% owned. We got 2 shares of Derek White, and that is the most shares we got of anybody from Boston. Is there anything you're seeing here that catches your eye?
Yeah, I think the 2 guards here, the 2 starting guards in Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, I think they're both solid tournament plays. The front court for Boston, they're kind of just going to ride the hot hand with a lot of these bodies, like Queta and Garza and Boucher and maybe Tillman and guys like that. So they're going to ride the hot hand there. But none of those guys are high usage players. So really just a ton of the offense is going to be Brown, White, and Pritchard, right? And then, Simons when he comes off the bench. Jaylen Brown still currently questionable with that hamstring injury. Originally when it happened, I thought he was going to be out for a bit, but he did full practice back-to-back days. So I think he's going to play here. If he does play, again, it's really, I think just the 2 guards. If Jaylen Brown surprisingly misses, then things get way more interesting. Obviously, White and Pritchard would look way better. Simons would be a good play off the bench. And then we would have to start considering some of these wings. A guy to mention for me would be Josh Minott. Was a pretty big part of their preseason rotation, and a lot of positive comments too. He's the flat min price. Don't think I can get to him if Brown plays, but if Brown surprisingly gets ruled out, then I think I would be inclined to take a shot on him. Yeah,
I would like to Josh Minott, another casualty of the PJ Washington bullshit, because on a different day when you didn't have 85% of the ownership going that direction, then maybe you could sneak Josh Minott in a little bit more. But now he realistically needs to play significantly more and go crazy when he does it. And that gets scary. I don't like much here for Boston. This is going to be a weird ass team, man. Their front court stinks. They're real bad.
Yeah, and just they're gonna be switching up the starting lineup almost every single day. I feel like with the front court, so it's gonna be like a Golden State situation where you just never know who 1 or 2 of the starters are.
OG was probable. Apparently he's a game time decision, but just for reference, he's probable, so that should not matter in any way. Mm-hmm. This game's going to be fun. I don't know how much it matters for DFS on either side, but these 2 teams are interesting this year. Toronto Raptors, 5-point dogs in Atlanta. We're going to look at Toronto first. These guys haven't played together. Scotty Barnes making his debut. Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl. There's no real ownership coming into these guys. I don't know how the hell you click on a dude from Toronto today.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty balanced team with Barnes, Quickley, Ingram, Poeltl, RJ Barrett as the starters. And I think if I had to click a starter, I think it would be Scotty Barnes, 8.4K, does have guard forward eligibility. But yeah, I think it's really hard to prioritize anyone. I wouldn't be surprised if Jakob Poeltl, they kind of ease him back into it with the minutes. They did at least in that last preseason game. So Mobo like really struggled in the preseason. So Mamukelashvili has been the backup 5. He's a flat min price, not a bad point per minute player. I think I'm okay taking a shot on him in large field tournaments, but other than that, there's really not much here. Like I'm not getting to Shed or Agbachi or Dick off the bench, like none of those guys. So Barnes, Mamukelashvili, and then that's it.
Khalil Ware in.
Okay.
So no stressors there. Yeah, I agree. We got 4% of Mamu coming out of the sim here. That's the most of anybody. I don't know what this team's going to look like. I'm not a big believer in Toronto to begin with. I don't love the way that these pieces fit together, and I have no idea how they're going to create any sort of democracy on this offense. So hard pass for me, largely on this Toronto team. Not the only team here. Atlanta, new look Atlanta. The East Darlings this year. We don't have much of them in the Sims. However, this is a team now with Kristaps Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson is healthy again. Dyson Daniels just signed his extension. Risache for year 2. We got 6% of Trey, 6% of Kristaps Porzingis. Is there anything catching your eye from Atlanta? I like them a lot as a team. I don't have very much interest in them from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Porzingis for tournaments. Right now, coming in around that 7% ownership range. He's 7,300. In their dress rehearsal preseason game, he played 17 first half minutes, played 28 minutes overall. I don't think he's going to be limited. He looks pretty good here. So, like, I think, assuming he avoids foul trouble, I could see Porzingis, push for 35 minutes in this game. Like the matchup a lot. Again, reasonable price point. So I like him a good amount here for tournaments. I think he's going a little bit overlooked right now. Outside of that, I think it's hard to get to Trey with some of the other spend ups on this slate. There's some other contrarian spend ups we'll talk about who I'd prefer over Trey Young. And then, I think Jalen Johnson's a bit overpriced there at 8,800. Okongwu off the bench, can't do that. Really, it's Porzingis. I like him a good amount, and that's about it.
Just got a super chat, friend of the program, fellow Tailser, Morgan Wiper, said, "Hey, DK DFS, I live directly under a rock, so I didn't know you existed before yesterday. But your tweets on NBA, fire. Maybe I can win at NBA DFS now. Let's hope that you can't. Let's hope that you can. And you know why I say that? Because I think you're plenty flush right now. For those of you that are unaware, Morgan shipped close to 800K, somewhere in that neighborhood, on one of the main MLB slates. I want to say that was late July, early August, and then followed that up with an NFL Millie win. So Morgan's up about $2 million over the past 2 or 3 months. Please don't get good at NBA DFS.
But yeah, appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Go check Morgan out on Tails, as well as DK DFS, as well as me, who will post things from time to time. But if you want to follow those guys for picks, I highly recommend that you do it. We're at the halfway point. We're through 5 games, so a little behind, but honestly, ahead of the pace that I normally would keep on a day like today. So we're looking good. Temporary pause. If you want our tools for $1 for today and today only, the promo code is SGA. The link is in the description. Get everything that we have on the NBA side for $1 for the rest of today. That will renew tomorrow at the price that you choose for the package that you pick. If you pick a monthly package, you're going to renew tomorrow for that same monthly package. Maybe that doesn't sound awesome to you. It should. $1 for all of our stuff today? It's a hell of a deal. You could also get everything that we have for 20% off right now. The promo code is OKC. Got to celebrate the champs. Any NBA package, any all-access package, this code is worth 20% off. The link is in the description. If you play NFL, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, NHL, we've got stuff for all of those sports. The all-access package would be covered with this code if you want access to everything. If you're just an NBA person, use the code OKC. Get 20% off. Either one of them work for you, folks. Come on in and hang out. Oh. Detroit and Chicago. Pistons. Everybody's darling last year. Not a huge fan this year. But we do have one guy that we're desperately going to be talking about here because Cade Cunningham is easy to get to thanks to the amount of money we have free from PJ Washington and the position that Cade Cunningham plays. 9,900 today, taking on a Bulls team that plays fast and has a terrible defense. 26% owned. He showed up in 58% of Sims lineups. Big stand on Cade. Where do you land?
Yeah, I think I'm right about where his current ownership is, like around 25%. I understand why he's getting a lot of love here. It's a great spot against Chicago. No Jaden Ivey, and also no Marcus Sasser. So they don't really have a backup point guard. I think you might see a little bit of Jenkins as the backup point, but yeah, I mean, Cade's gonna have the ball in his hands a ton, super high total, and sub 10K price point. Yeah, so I have nothing bad to say about Cade.
I have nothing to say about anybody else. Like, I agree, Cade looks great at 9,900. He's going to have the opportunity to do literally whatever he wants out there. This is his team, full stop. They didn't really add anybody else that's going to dominate the ball, and the one guy that might isn't playing today in Jaden Ivey. So I love Cade. Do you have any interest at all in Karis LeVert?
No, I think 5,800 is just a little bit too pricey.
That's fair. He didn't show up in anything in the Sims. I just look at that shooting guard, small forward eligibility and what this team needs. I've got my eye on him, at least. I don't really like anything else here, though. We got 3% of Duren and no one else. That's how I feel about the rest of Detroit. I really like this spot, but pricing is not making this advantageous.
Yeah, and just something to note, like Pistons, they did overlap Duren and Stewart a little bit there in the preseason, so I think that's possible here. Not really that like I'm going to get to either, but I just wanted to mention
that. The Chicago Bulls are a team that I have no respect for. They are getting a little bit of ownership, however. The one guy I do like, Matas Buzelis, around 10% owned. That's what we got in the Sims. We barely got anybody else. Giddey's here at 9,200. Kobe White is out for this one. That redistributes ownership in a big way for this team. Is anything standing out to you here for Chicago? I have one name I like, but it's not that I like him, but this is another PJ Washington casualty.
Okay. Yeah, I think Buzelis and Giddey, I think, are the first two guys to talk about obviously here. So no Kobe White. No Zach Collins too. But yeah, Buzelis is going to have a bigger role. He's reasonably priced there at 5,900. I think in a competitive game, you could definitely see, mid 30s minutes. I think it's definitely in the range of outcomes here. Had a good preseason. So I think he's going to take a leap forward here. So yeah, I have some interest in Buzelis. Again, he's coming in around 10%. Giddey, similar ownership, 9,200, going to have the ball in his hands a ton. Obviously, stat sheet stuffer. Feels about right with that ownership. So I don't have any super strong takes there. Outside of that, Trey Jones is getting a little bit of ownership. I think he's viable just because, he's not a bad point per minute player. He's not going to overlap a ton with Josh Giddey, but again, reasonable contrarian value there. Io also not really getting any ownership at 5,600. I think I have a little bit more than the current 3% projected ownership. A little bit more interest in him just because he's got that guard forward eligibility and because there's no Kobe White. But Vooch, you can't get to him at 8,800. I think his minutes are going to be down this year. Jalen Smith will play the backup center. Wish he was cheaper, but yeah, 4,800, you can't go there. So that's really about it for Chicago.
I echo everything that you just said for the Bulls here. On a different slate, I'd have more interest in Trey Jones because I think he's going to be a little underrepresented for what this is, but I don't like him on a day where I need his score to be disproportionately different now because of that value. But on a different day, I would have liked Trey Jones significantly more than I do right now. Unfortunately, it's just not that day. Two snake-bitten teams that seem to have a hex on their team. The New Orleans Pelicans are taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are the favorites in this one. New Orleans, very new-look team. Mildly healthy right now, save for DeJounte Murray. Skinny Zion with his evil goatee is here at 8,900. Trey Murphy is healthy. Herb Jones is healthy. They've got Sadiq Bey now. Yves Missi is sort of the only real center on the team. 20% ownership coming into Zion, 10 coming into Sadiq Bey. I'll ask you more about the guy that people care about. What do you want to do with Zion?
Yeah, love the upside in him here. This is a game that I think there's going to be very little defense played. So yeah, high total again, like 236.5 over under right now. So like the upside a lot on Zion. I think he's one of the better spend ups here on the slate. Saddiq Bey is really the only other guy getting ownership, 3,600. He's going to play decent minutes off the bench. And again, he's getting some ownership just because of the way that the slate is set up. Trey Murphy, I think, is a little bit overpriced there at 7,500. Like I can't get to pool at 7,800. Zion, I like him, I think, a little bit more than his current ownership.
I like him too. I wish I didn't, but unfortunately I do. If he's healthy, he's always awesome, and there's really no one to stop him from having the ball at this point. I'd love Saddiq Bey a lot more if this were a different slate, but we have him, 11% owned, 17% exposure in the sim, so we are getting a little bit over there. Grades out really well for me. 3,600. Don't think they're going to push him in minutes. He hasn't played a basketball game in like 500 days or something stupid, but certainly looks like a potential value play with an MPE. And then we get to the Memphis Grizzlies, who are just the whole damn team's hurt. These guys are missing a lot of guys, and that's creating some really weird stuff, including guys I've never known existed. From an injury perspective, no Brandon Clark, no Scottie Pippen Jr., no Ty Jerome, no Vince Williams, and no Zach Edey. We've got 10% ownership coming into Jock Landale, likely to start for the Memphis Grizzlies today. I'm going to ask you more about Ja Morant and Triple J.
Yeah, so Ja Morant, 9,400. There's a report that he's not going to be limited, but I would be pretty surprised he comes out and plays like 36 minutes or so. So I think I'm okay not having him. Jaren Jackson's 8,600. That feels about right. Memphis just ran like really weird rotations in the preseason. I expect them to run a pretty deep rotation here, even with all these guys out. I understand why Landale's getting some ownership, around 10% expected to start. I still don't have like a ton of confidence in his minutes. They can go, Jaren at the 5. I think Aldama can play some 5. I mean, PJ Hall could even crack the rotation. But I understand why Landale is getting some ownership because he is 4K and again expected to start there at center. Javon Small had kind of an up and down preseason, but he's the flat min price. He should back up Ja Morant. I think it's still kind of tough to go there though. Aldama's way overpriced, not expected to start. So I think, again, I kind of agree with the ownership here with Landale getting the most love.
This is one of those spots where I think the Pelicans defense is ass. Like Zion's not great on D. Yves Missy's not great. Like they don't have a lot outside of Herb Jones. Something in the Morant Triple J duo I'm interested in here for this particular matchup. They're not really showing up much in the Sims. Morant didn't show up at all. Jaren Jackson Jr. showed up in one lineup. This is a spot just looking at these low-owned guys that I like in GPPs. One of Morant or Triple J is going to smack this New Orleans team around because this defense is really bad on the opposite side. What do we got left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go. Okay, we're doing a hell of a job, honestly. 12 games on this slate. If you guys could help us out, this is a massive amount of games to try to break down for you guys. We do have another hour to go after this. You're going to get Greg and Spags at 6 p.m. for Live Before Lock. But if you guys could help us out right now, hit the like button. It's massive for us. Subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss it. Morgan Mendon threw in another super chat. He said, tell chat what Tails is, Josh. The people need it. I agree. The people do, in fact, need it. So I'm going to pull it up right now. You guys can see the free picks fade on Tails. If you're just looking for sports betting, pick'em, DFS information, think of this like a curated place. Think of this like the For You feed for that industry. Whether you're looking for DFS advice, which you can see here from CG, Greg is here dropping bets, and you'll see a sea of bets from different experts. You can subscribe to those experts if you want. Follow them if you just want to get some of their free plays. You can subscribe to someone like DK if you want. Get his direct plays. They're not just going out to everybody. You got to pay for the goods. Morgan also posting on Tails. You should follow him as well. It's a great place to be. It's totally free if you just want the base of it all. If you want that free picks feed, you want to see what people are posting for the day, come check it out. If you find somebody you like, subscribe to them directly. Send them some love. Anthony with the super chat. Thanks for the great content, Josh and DK. Thank you for the super chat, man. Good luck tonight. Next game up, the Washington Wizards, who are shit, taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Washington is next level bad. This is a team that is we're not going to enjoy talking about for most of this year. We didn't get a single share of a Washington Wizard in our top 150 lineups. DK, what say you? Is there a Wizard you like? Is it Harry Potter?
There's no one that I like. There's one guy that I think you can play. That's Chris Middleton. Again, project for 1% ownership. So last year, once he got traded to the Wizards, they just kind of took it easy on his minutes. He was playing like low 20s every single night, but good. He played 2 games in the preseason, and he was pacing for 30 plus minutes in both those games. So I think there's a chance, if this game is competitive, you could see Middleton play, 31, 32 minutes here. It is, a revenge spot, right? I'm not really a huge revenge guy, but I think he could be looking for shot a little bit more than he usually does. So I think Middleton's the one guy I think you can take a shot on here. Outside of that, there's really nothing.
Yeah, there's not a lot coming out of our projections right now that lead me to believe Chris Middleton is a guy that the Wizards have guys that we should really talk about. When I look at my projections, Chris Middleton is the guy that stands out above everybody else, but that's not he's not standing too far above everybody. The more likely scenario is that you're probably not getting to much of the Washington Wizards. That's going to be a slightly different story on the Milwaukee side, however. In case you forgot, they've got a guy that's pretty damn good. 11,100 for Giannis Antetokounmpo. No Damian Lillard for this one. In comes Miles Turner. Giannis Antetokounmpo, power forward, center eligible, projected for 45% ownership. We got more than that in the Sims. He deserves every bit of it. There's no struggle whatsoever to roster him. It's a matchup that's as good as you could possibly get. What's not to like here?
Yeah, he's going to be massive chalk, but for good reason. So I don't really have a ton else to add here for Giannis. Obviously, no Dame, great spot, basically teamed to himself. So totally understand why he's extremely popular.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're telling anybody anything interesting if they want to play Giannis here. He's clearly one of the 5 best plays that you can get to today, if not the overall number 1 dude, save for PJ Washington's broken price tag. Do you like anything else here for Milwaukee? How do you feel about Turner? What do you think of this point guard realm? Can Gary Trent make himself feel better after being the choker in the playoffs while also going insane? Crazy Gary Trent.
Yeah, I have a little bit of interest in Kevin Porter Jr. At 6,500. I think in a competitive game, you're probably going to see around that 30-minute mark for him. Gets obviously a little bit of a usage and assist bump without Dame there. Yeah, he played relatively well in the preseason too, like the matchup. So I have a little bit of interest there in KPJ. AJ Green is completely unowned. Most likely going to start. So the most likely starting lineup here is going to be KPJ, Gary Trent, AJ Green, Giannis, and Miles Turner. Just signed AJ Green to a deal as well. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but this is a guy that did put up a couple big games in the preseason. He's relatively scoring dependent, obviously, but he's making his shots. He has a ceiling. So I wanted to mention him as kind of just like a large field tournament dart throw. But for the most part, I think it's just KPJ and then obviously Giannis.
Yeah, Giannis. Do you think he's the best play of the day today, non-PJ Washington division?
Yeah.
Okay. 4 to go. 15 minutes left before lock, folks. We deserve a medal for how well we're handling this. This game, I like, but it is going to be an absolute drubbing because I think the Clippers are exceptional and Utah sucks. The LA Clippers are taking on Utah in Utah. The Clippers probably feeling pretty inspired today to take on the Utah Jazz. There's no ownership coming into the Clippers today, and I'm not entirely shocked by that. They got a lot of bodies. For the most part, they're all healthy right now. They are going to eviscerate this Utah Jazz team, but I don't really like them in fantasy. They don't have to do anything crazy.
Yeah, not even though it's a great matchup, I'm not really a fan of the Clippers here. They're going to run a pretty deep rotation. Ty Lue said that they're not going to play 11 when fully healthy, but they are going to play 10. So the odd man out's either going to be Bogdanovic or Batum. But yeah, like the bench unit is a little bit different this year. You're gonna have Chris Paul, John Collins. So you got Brad Beal obviously in the starting unit. This is gonna be a pretty balanced attack as well. So yeah, like Harden and Kawhi are getting a little bit of ownership. I'm okay just not having them. If it burns me, it burns me. But yeah, even though it's a really good matchup, I'm basically just not getting to any of the Clippers.
We got the 2% of James Harden at a max. I love this team in real life. I will rarely get them in DFS until we get into the season and like 4 dudes are sitting at a time. Then it's going to look very different. Speaking of teams I don't want to roster ever, the Utah Jazz are still in the NBA. And unfortunately, we're going to be playing some of these guys today. And if you don't follow basketball much, you might not even know who you're going to be playing today from the Jazz. There's 15% ownership coming into Keontae George, 10 coming into Bryce Sensabaugh, around 20 for Walter Clayton Jr. and the Sims love him right now. You'll note none of those names were Lauri Markkanen or Walker Kessler or even Ace Bailey. What do you like for the Jazz?
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with Walter Clayton Jr. The ownership has come down on him a bit. Like earlier in the day, he was around 40%, which I thought was kind of crazy. It's coming down to a little bit more of a reasonable ownership now. I still think it's a bit high. He's going to play the backup point guard position to Keontae. Could overlap a little bit there, but still feel like he's going a little bit overowned at the moment. But I understand why it's there, right? He's min price. He's point guard, shooting guard eligible. So I understand why it's happening. Keontae George is 6,100. Ownership feels about right for him. So not a ton to add there. Bryce Sensabaugh, another guy getting some ownership there at 3,700. Also feels a little bit high. I'm curious to see what they do with the starting lineup, whether it be Filipowski or Hendricks. Kind of lean Hendricks, but in the most recent game, they started Filipowski. So again, keep an eye on that. Obviously, the other starters are going to be Ace Bailey, Keontae George, Walker Kessler, and Lauri Markkanen. And then I'll mention Walker Kessler at like basically no ownership, 6,600. Obviously he's only center eligible, so higher opportunity cost. But I think he's also going to take a step forward this year, and I think he's viable as a contrarian play.
Yeah, I'm fine with any little bits of Bryce Sensabaugh, Keontae George. I like Walter Clayton a lot. I like Walter Clayton to have a better career than Ace Bailey. Let's put that out there right now. That said, if I were getting 60% of him and he's 20% owned, I would tamp that back. That seems like an unnecessary aggression for today. But I see why he's the most owned guy on the Jazz, and I have no disagreement with it. I have very little interest in Lauri Markkanen right now. I'd be more interested in Walker Kessler, and I don't anticipate having a single share of Ace Bailey. I don't like this spot for Ace. He's going to understand what the NBA is pretty quickly with everything that the Clippers are going to trot out there. And when he gets to the rim and meets Zoo, I don't think he's going to enjoy it very much.
Yeah, not a great spot. Obviously, he's dealing with like the illness and a knee too. So yeah, I'm okay just not having any Ace Bailey.
All righty. 3 to go. There's the fun one. San Antonio Spurs taking on the Dallas Mavericks. The San Antonio side, very easy to talk about. No De'Aaron Fox for this one, so that's a little bit different. Dylan Harper going to be making his debut. The Unicorn Net is here. But so is Victor Wembanyama, 10,900. Only projected for 7% ownership. We got 17 in the Sims. If he's 7% owned in an hour when I build my lineups, I would like to have significantly more than that.
Yeah, I got some kind of hot takes here, and they're both with the Spurs centers. I really like both. Wembanyama, I think, is my favorite tournament player right now on the slate at current ownership. You have guys like Giannis and AD, which we'll talk about, Cade Cunningham. A lot of these guys are getting like a ton of ownership, and then Wembanyama is not. And that just surprises me a little bit here. So I love Wemby in tournaments, and that ownership is going to stay sub 10%. And then Luke Cornett too, 3,900. I don't know if people realize, but he overlapped a lot with Wembanyama in the preseason. And I think that's going to happen again here, especially against a big front court in Dallas. So I think Cornett, assuming he avoids foul trouble, could definitely see, low 20s minutes, maybe even upwards, close to that 25-minute mark. So I'm pretty high on both these Spurs centers for tournaments. Wemby at around 7%, Cornett around 4%.
Do you want to do anything with any of these guards? Castle, Vassell, Harper? I don't have much interest in the rest of these guys. I'm not a big Castle guy.
Not a ton. No, I think Castle's a fine last guy in. Champagny, I think, will still play decent minutes there. He's 4,300. He's getting a little bit of ownership, but yeah, there's really not much else here for the Spurs.
Josh Gillum says the Spurs gave Cornette 50 mil. LOL. I mean, he's 1,000,000% properly paid. Luke Cornette's good.
He's good. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, we got to remember that the league average salary now is close to $20 million. Like, dude, everybody makes stupid money and makes you feel stupid about seeing the number next to their name. And 5 years from now, it is really going to just break brains because we're going to start getting $100 million players. All right, let's get it out of the way now. Dallas Mavericks. We've talked about it throughout most of this show. Let's touch on it very quickly here. As I reminded everybody earlier, the Dallas Mavericks have a player from DraftKings, no less. This is not the same on FanDuel. PJ Washington is the flat 3K on DraftKings. He's projected for something in the mid 80s in ownership. I anticipate having him in everything that I do. If I have 99.73% or whatever, I don't care. But this is the easiest play you'll make all year.
Yeah, it's dumb. They had it for the preseason as well, where he was the flat min price. I thought they would fix this, but they didn't. If I was making 150 lineups, I would have 100% PJ Washington. Just a clear misprice here. He's going to start. And play probably low 30s minutes. Yeah, I think PJ looks amazing. So, I would have 100% if I was 150 maxing. Yep,
same. But then we've got 25% ownership coming into AD. We've got 15-ish coming into Najee Marshall. I don't see it. Cooper Flagg is obviously making his NBA debut today. What else do you like from Dallas here?
So obviously AD 9,700, I think is up there as one of the better spend ups. There was a quote a couple weeks ago about how they're going to run offense through him kind of a little bit like Sabonis. So I think the assist numbers are going to tick up a little bit here for Anthony Davis. Plus, they're starting Cooper Flagg at the point. I just wanted to mention that. But Najee Marshall, again, he's getting some ownership. I think maybe a little bit over-owned, but he's going to have a role off the bench for sure. Absolutely can't get to D'Lo. I can't get to Clay. Lively without Gafford. I still think there's other centers I'd rather get to, but his role is a little bit more secure. But for the most part, obviously PJ and then Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I like AD here as well, but the 26% ownership does feel a little high. This is another situation where I'm okay, if Triple J is really 3, do I really need the guys that are already Giannis is one thing. I don't necessarily trust AD. I don't love the spacing on this Dallas team right now. I could see it. But that said, I mean, it's his team-ish right now until if and when Kyrie gets back or Cooper Flagg takes the leap. Ryan H., just so we're clear here, whether PJ Washington starts or not is irrelevant. He's the overwhelming number one play. I'm going to have him in everything. I don't care if he starts or not. It doesn't matter on DraftKings. He's 3K. Starts, comes off the bench, meaningless.
I'm pretty confident the starting lineup's going to be Cooper Flagg, Clay, PJ, AD, and Lively. Because there's a report that Cooper Flagg's going to start at the point. So obviously you're not seeing D'Lo in the starting lineup.
Yep. If Cooper Flagg's starting at the point, that lets you know where the rest of these people are going to be. I hope Flagg's awesome. You want to get to Minnesota, Portland? We got some Minnesota, Portland news earlier today. Mike Conley not starting for the Minnesota Timberwolves. That is going to be Dante DiVincenzo. This Minnesota Timberwolves team is also no longer employing Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He is in Atlanta, which just leaves the rest of the Minnesota team that we know, and they don't really do too much weird stuff. 10% ownership to DiVincenzo or Ant. I guess pay attention to Ant's status. But do you like anything here for Minnie? Because I hate him, by the way. This Portland matchup sucks.
No, really not much interest. I mean, DiVincenzo's getting a little bit of ownership, but honestly, I don't even think he's going to see a massive minutes increase with him starting because it's not like Conley was playing a ton anyway last year starting. Anthony Edwards, the only other guy getting some love. I'm okay not having him here. There's really not much else. I do think Terrence Shannon is going to have a nice year this year, but obviously you can't get to him for DFS. I just wanted to mention that. I think he's going to be a pretty big part of this rotation.
Yeah, I don't have anybody really standing out here. I think Portland's one of the better defenses in the league when they're healthy. Kamara, Drew Holiday, Donovan Clingan all starting. This is not a great spot. to try to peak offense. Now, Portland stinks on the offensive side of the ball, but their defense is real. I don't have a ton that I'm looking at here from Minnesota. They all seem like appropriately priced. We know the role of every single one of the guys on this team. They deviate very little from everything. I find Minnesota largely irrelevant for today. Portland, on the other hand, is a team that plays today, and they've got a little bit of intrigue coming out of me for today. Now, they don't have any ownership. These guys are largely unowned. But do you like anything here for Portland? I'm a Portland believer right now.
Yeah, I like this team just overall. I think Portland's going to be pretty good this year, assuming they can stay healthy. But they played at a really fast pace in the preseason. And you kind of saw the minutes get cut down for Klingon because of that. I know Klingon, really good point per minute player, but I don't know, like the minutes. I don't know if the minutes ceiling is there for him. I think the guy that I like the best here is Drew Holiday, 6,200. He has a different role this year than with Boston. Obviously, with Boston, he was really just out there kind of as a defensive guy. But for Portland, a much different role. He's their main ball handler. And I think in a competitive game, he's going to push for 30 plus minutes here. Had a solid preseason. I have more interest in him than current 3%. So I like some Drew Holiday. Denny is, in my opinion, a little bit overpriced. And then that's kind of it. I think Sharp's a little bit overpriced too.
Yeah, I like Denny, but 8,500 is not going to get it done today. That's just, that's way too massive. And just, there's so many centers that you could talk about all of them. I really like Donovan Klingon. He's not good offensively. I like the price at 6,100, but on a day like today, I'm not really creating anything fun there. There's not much else that I want to do with this one. You going to get any Yang Hansen?
No, not in this slate. I don't even know. I don't know if they play the full 48 too, center Mets. I know they're going up against a big Minnesota team, but I can see some small ball here, like Denny / Jeremy Grant at the 5, especially if they're playing from behind to close the game. So.
Final game, everybody. Hit the like button before we turn this one over to Live Before Lock. There are 2,800 of you in YouTube right now watching this show. That's sick. Happy to have you. One quick reminder, playback.tv/Stokastic. When Live Before Lock ends, Greg Ehrenberg and I are going to be there watching the games. You could watch along with us, sweat them out. We'll talk DFS, we'll talk bets, we'll talk whatever. But we're going to be watching the games, and you can come watch along with us. We've got VIP passes that we can hand out. I'll probably turn the stream on a little early. Come find me at like 6:30, 6:45, something like that. I'm going to get my lineups in. But Greg and I are going to be on playback after Live Before Lock, watching games for about an hour or longer. Who knows? Final game. Sacramento Kings just might be my least favorite team in the league. They only make bad decisions, taking on Phoenix, who's already made all of their bad decisions. Got some injuries in Sacramento. No Keegan Murray, no Domantas Sabonis. This team has Russell Westbrook, and we got one share of DeMar and no one else for Sacramento. I don't really mind it all that much. I hate these dudes.
Yeah, I mean, overall, this team is just not good. The roster, like construction, just doesn't make any sense. They're just going to be, below average for if they continue to keep this roster together. So again, I agree. Like I do not like this roster at all. But for DFS purposes, with Sabonis out, I thought there'd be more to like here, but there really isn't. Eubanks is going to start at the 5. He's 5,200. Feels about right, maybe a little bit overpriced. The rest of the guys like DeRozan and Levine feel a little bit pricey too. Monk is 6,500. Like you got Westbrook there. He's going to be like a relative high usage player off the bench. It's just kind of a relatively balanced attack. And there's nothing standing out looking at the salaries here. I do think Clifford had a good preseason. He's 3,800, but I don't think I can go there on this slate. I do think he's going to be in the rotation, but I don't think I can take a shot on him for DFS.
Light the beam, I reckon. Phoenix Suns. They don't have Bradley Beal any longer. They don't have Kevin Durant either. But they do still have Devin Booker, for those that care. No one's really getting any ownership here. Everybody's sub 10% on this side. Do you like anything here? Do you like Colin Gillespie? Do you like Book? Do you like anything? Because I don't.
Yeah, I actually really like Devin Booker. I like him quite a bit here for tournaments. It's just because you look at this roster, right? Obviously, there's KD and Beal are gone; they're not here anymore. It's just like Booker and centers and a bunch of 3-and-D guys. Like there's like no high usage players with Jalen Green out, obviously. So it's just going to be the ball is going to be in Devin Booker's hands a ton here. 9,600 again, getting sub 10% ownership. I think he's right there with Wemby as one of my favorite contrarian spend ups on the slate if the ownership holds. So I'm much higher on Booker right now than the field. The rest of this team, Mark Williams is going to be limited, so we can't go there. And Ryan Dunn and Colin Gillespie are the only other guys getting some ownership. I'm just like fine with it. I don't really have any super strong takes. Grayson Allen is going to start, but he's a little bit overpriced here at 5,900. So overall, though, yeah, I'm pretty high in Booker here for tournaments.
DeAndre Hunter is out for today for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So start moving that around. Jalen Tyson looking a little bit better than he did when the show started. DK, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on Twitter, DK__DFS, or over on Tails. Tails posting a lot of free content there as well. You guys want to check me out. So, yeah, appreciate you guys for watching.
There it is, everybody. Deeper dive in the books. Live before lock coming up right now. Greg Ehrenberg, Chris Spags, they're in the building, and they're ready to take you guys all the way up until lock. Have a great time, everybody. I hope you guys have some fun. Spags, Greg, goodbye.
Gentlemen.
Hello and goodbye.
See you guys.
Good luck tonight, guys. First real slate of the season. And now it is time for NBA Live Before Lock. So I know Josh prompted you guys, but still do us a favor. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If it was not enough to like the video for Josh and DK, do it for Spags and I. At the very least, do it for us. Also, want to remind you guys, some people may have not watched the show yesterday because it was a 2-game slate. Today, it is a full slate. So people might be asking, where's Eric? I'm not going to do the entire whole bit again today, Spags, but just to get out ahead of people asking where he is, he's getting nominated into his high school Hall of Fame. He's going to be back on Live Before Lock tomorrow. So you guys will be able to see Eric there tomorrow, but also he's doing some Tails content right now as well, trying to figure out what he could do with some live Tails content to go support all the content that Eric does as well for Tails and also all the stuff he does over on Odd Shopper. And you'll see him back on Live Before Lock tomorrow. But Spags, how are you doing today? And how'd the 2-game slate go for you last night?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was actually had a little positive ROI in the 20 max I did, not so much in the big tournament, but felt pretty good about the slate. Obviously, hard to feel super good when you have Kason Wallace, AJ Mitchell in the final lineups. But, I think there are things we talked about here. The idea of maybe not loading up on SGA and Luka, playing one of those guys, ended up paying off. And Şengün being the outlier. I touted Kevin Durant, and of course, Şengün goes off as your low on pivot. But that's sort of the way those 2 gamers go. You get one thing wrong, it's, you're boned no matter what.
Yeah, and overall, I posted my results to Twitter yesterday. Always fun when I ended up profiting $13. So always fun when you go through a slate. You do hours of content, you answer questions all day, you spend time figuring out the rotations to open up, your projections, all of that, and then you just basically dead break even for the entire slate. By the way, shout out to Malukar, gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. As always, Malukar, thank you very much for supporting the channel. We appreciate you very much. We also have a question for us right out of the gate here. We've got one from Abby. Abby Schreier wants to know from us, who are some of the top value plays on the FanDuel side of things? So yeah, I'll pull the FanDuel lineups up on screen. And yeah, this is usually the majority of the questions we get are DraftKings. Usually opening questions are DraftKings. So I'll show you guys here some of the overall FanDuel exposures that I've gotten here in the Sims without making any kind of adjustments. And one thing that kind of stands out about this slate, more so on FanDuel than DraftKings, Spags, something similar to what we saw yesterday, is it's not necessarily the all-the-way pay-down options that are showing up the most on FanDuel. It's guys who are like in the 4K range. The DraftKings value options, different situations, because DraftKings just fucked up the pricing right out of the gate here for the first big slate. So we're going to have to talk about the PJ Washington thing. I think that'll be the next discussion point after some of the top value options for FanDuel. But I wouldn't look all the way down at some of the punt options. Instead, I'd look at somebody like Dante DiVincenzo, who's going to be starting over Mike Conley this year and is only $4,500 on FanDuel. He makes a good amount of sense. if you want to, this might not be the traditional value in the way that you guys would normally think of it, but Cooper Flagg is opening the season at just 6K on FanDuel with small forward and power forward eligibility. And as far as Cooper Flagg goes, I think he's going to be a stat stuffer. Spags, I think we're going to see him score, rebound, assist. I think we're going to see defensive stats out of him as well. Also, I wanted to get your input on one other value option who shows up a decent amount in the Sims. I'm making adjustments that I also like. Somebody who is near and dear to your heart, Quentin Grimes, has opened the season at $4,500 over on FanDuel. And the audience has probably not forgotten your love affair with Quentin Grimes, who, by the way, you were on the right side of. You rode the train of Quentin Grimes, where he went from, I don't know, like a $4,500 price tag all the way up to like $9K at one point last year on FanDuel and DraftKings, where I know myself and Josh frequently saying, like, Quentin Grimes surely is overpriced now. And you were on the other side of it, and you were right more often than not on us. So I'm curious, what do you make of Quentin Grimes at a $4,500 price tag on FanDuel? Because he does stand out quite a bit to me per Abby's question. Are you going to be riding a little bit of Quentin Grimes again this season?
No, I mean, I think Quentin Grimes a fine play, but you are bringing in VJ Edgecombe. Paul George being out still, helps things out a little bit. Jared McCain hurting himself again with his 2-pound weights also opens up enough minutes for these guys to have the shot. But I think when you introduce Tyrese Maxey back in, Joel Embiid, who the reports have been he looks athletic in practice. Obviously, there's been some athletic articles about him talking about the battles he has versus the media and his perception and all this stuff. It seems like he's gone through a lot of introspection within the last year of issues. That stuff to me, like the issue, I mean, the positive with Grimes, the issue with him now is that now he's just like a 3-and-D guy again. He gets shunted down the chart. And even though good shooter guy can do a lot of stuff, the contract, the way the markets now work at the NBA, where free agency is pretty much dead. None of that worked out for our pal Quentin Grimes. But I think Cooper Flagg looks great on FanDuel. Asar Thompson, two guys that should have some stock upside. Cooper Flagg, I think on DraftKings, I wouldn't say he's unplayable, but I don't think you're really getting the ceiling. Anthony Davis being out there, PJ Washington being the co-point guard, not super exciting, but Flagg and Asar Thompson, I think easy FanDuel values. And DiVincenzo, who you mentioned as well, I think he's a really nice play, knowing that he is a starter. And really a lot of guys I think that grade out better on FanDuel do seem like much better values on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings.
Yeah, and then the one guy who, and we got a handful of other super chats here, so we'll answer those in a second, but we would be remiss if we did not have a little bit of a conversation here about PJ Washington at the top of the program, because for whatever reason, DraftKings looked at the rotations, the roles for all the players, and they were like, min price makes sense for PJ Washington when it really doesn't. So we've got PJ Washington projected for nearly 30 fantasy points, Spags. By the way, I think he would have showed up in just about all my lineups, even if there weren't injuries to the front court of the Dallas Mavericks. But there are injuries to the front court of the Dallas Mavericks, which even more so opens up additional playing time for PJ Washington here. So Washington, he's going to be playing out of position to open the season for Dallas, just because they kind of only have front court players in the majority of their, I mean, they've got, I don't know what, like 7 out of the 12 players that are on the roster are like power forwards or centers, something along those lines. So PJ Washington, min price, he's going to be super popular. I don't think he's going to come in quite as chalky as we have him projected, but he's somebody who is so mispriced. He just kind of breaks the data. I find him unavoidable. I'm locking him in, Spags, and just making myself different elsewhere.
Yeah, I did the same thing. And I think, Josh has beaten the drum very aggressively on his content today. I think, to the benefit of you guys out there that I know, Josh is the persnickety teacher for a lot of you guys out there. He's being mean to you. He's trying to push you, but he's trying to push you to greatness. And when he says something like if PJ Washington is one of those plays where you now are just playing every other spot against the field, like that's it. Really, the way he doesn't get there today at 3K is, I don't know, injury, like something weird happening where he's wildly unproductive. D'Angelo Russell gets really going off the bench. Like there aren't a lot of good game theory outs. I know a lot of us, play NFL DFS, and you're so used to being, browbeaten by these kind of speculative value plays, like, oh, this guy's too cheap. And then you end up seeing the other receiver catching the touchdown, whatever the case may be. But in NBA, it's just not the same game when a guy is going to play a good amount of minutes, assuming he starts. Even if he doesn't start, there's going to be just too much of a need for him to be out there. But reports have been he's going to be your co-lead ball handler with Cooper Flagg. So again, not really a FanDuel play for DraftKings today. He's your free square and kind of your NBA DFS IQ test, but no matter how you want to play that.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I'd mentioned in passage, I mean, Daniel Gafford isn't expected to play today. I probably would have had 100% of PJ Washington even if Gafford was in, but then Gafford being out, that just solidifies the projections. Like, hey, you're getting a guy who's projected for 27.5 fantasy points at min price and going to be in all lineups, as opposed to him being like 25 fantasy points at min price and still being in all of our lineups. Let's see some of the other super chats. One here is from Polar Wash, says, thanks for the content. Greg and Spags managed to chop the $15 for $106,000
awesome.
last night. Thanks to your help in the Sims. Appreciate you. Shout out to Polar Wash. Yeah, absolutely love to see that. So Polar Wash, congrats on the win. That is absolutely sick to see. And for all of you guys, if you have not yet tried out the Sims, you have got 50 minutes left to sign up. For just $1, you get access to the Sims for today. So any package you choose to sign up for, just $1 with the promo code SGA, and then whatever package you sign up for, it's going to be renewed tomorrow. But get a chance to try out the tools for yourself today for just $1. Like, look at our friend Polar Wash yesterday. Checks out the tools and wins north of $100,000. That's a pretty good return. Pretty good return. And you guys could get a return like that for just, well, obviously nothing guaranteed, but a better chance at a return like that for just $1. So shout out to Polar Wash. I love when you guys have wins like that. And also, if you haven't done it yet, Polar Wash, if you're using the Stokastic avatar, tweet at us. If you got a Twitter account, get yourself inducted into the Hall of Fame. You'll get yourself a ring. Get yourself a ring. That is absolutely ring qualifying. If you guys don't know about the Stokastic Hall of Fame program, if you play with the avatar and you have a win, you tweet at us, you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, you get yourself a free subscription. So Polar Wash, shout out to you. That is good stuff.
Yeah. And what if he tweeted at us, by the way? Like, Emax tweeted me about his $100 of wins on FanDuel and tagging me in it. Why can't Polar Wash go, hey, by the way, I won $110,000 almost. Thanks, Live Before Lock, guys. Polar Wash, good, congrats and all. But what about that mentions? What are we not doing here?
It was so, I don't even think I'm going to go back to this. Yeah, I was going to say yeah, like no exclamation marks in here or anything. Yeah, Emac gets way more excited about his $28 Yahoo wins. Yeah, people don't even know. Emac's the only one keeping Yahoo in business. And we see all of his winning screenshots there. Polar Wash. I want to see that screenshot. Morgan, by the way, Morgan, another guy who is just crushed using our tools. Morgan won Millie Makers in, what was it? 2 Millie Makers over the course of like a week or something. Morgan won not all that long ago. So another Stokastic sub who's just been killing it as of late. And he has a shout here, wants to know, is Eric Lindquist a stat stuffer like Cooper Flagg or a stat stuffer like Bonnie Blue? I hear he broke a record. Yeah, I mean, he does. He's a little bit of a stat patter. He's like Russell Westbrook at the tail end of his peak, where he's just trying to rack up the triple doubles. Add a little bit of extra stats to the sheet. He's got strategies for that. All right, Spags, let's talk about some pay-up options as well, because we talked about the insane value that exists on PJ Washington. So let's talk about some of the pay-up options, because they exist aplenty for tonight's slate, and then we'll get into Discord and answer some of the other questions from Stokastic subs. Considering all the value that we have, particularly on DraftKings, it is not difficult to pay up for some of the top studs. Last night, it was key if you guys landed on some combination of like Şengün and Luka. I mean, all of the pay-up options. SGA had like 3 fantasy points at halftime, and then because the game went to a bazillion overtimes, he still ended up having an okay game. But pay-up options were key last night. I want to know from you, of all the players who are 9K and above, who is your favorite one to pay up for today?
9K and above. I mean, I think it has to be Giannis, and this is one where I am a little bit different in my exposure than I'm getting in the Stokastic top 150 lineups right now, where with 25% to first, I think I have 3 uniques on right now. I got Giannis at 58% of lineups, Fields at 49.5. I have him projected a little bit lower than Stokastic. I still have, Kyle Kuzma getting back to some higher usage based on the historical sample size going back to Washington. Bobby Portis is there taking up some shots. Kevin Porter, and not that those guys are anywhere near the stratosphere of Giannis, but I think there's a world where he doesn't hit in an outlier way and doesn't absorb as much. I don't know. I think some of the stuff with this is all narrative, but the offseason with him kind of wanting to feel the team out and I'm going to see how the next 6 months go kind of stuff. It just doesn't feel like this is Giannis taking over and asserting, hey, this is my team and I'm going to, go all the way with it. And, and when you have Wemby being so much less owned, like 8% compared to 50, I'll get the Giannis because he projects so well. But if it's like a third of my lineups, I feel like that's more appropriate to me than half my lineups because I get some Wemby, I get Cade Cunningham plus, 2 other guys above 8,500. Like I think there's ways to play it without Giannis and maybe gives you a little more tournament upside.
So I have a couple of different answers for this question because the one I have the most exposure to overall is Giannis, but that's also kind of where the field is at. But I'm also not that all that much different from the field. I'm right in line with the field when it comes to Giannis. So it seems like you're a little bit underweight. I'm right about even with the field without making any adjustments to the Stokastic Sims. Giannis comes in a little bit overweight, but I am on the same page with you in terms of relative to ownership. I love being able to get Wemby at single digit ownership. I think he is primed to make a leap this year. And I mean, this is kind of, I think in a lot of people's eyes, a little bit inevitable when it comes to Wemby. I don't know that there's a single person out here at this point who doesn't believe in the upside of Victor Wembanyama outside of maybe any health concerns that exist. He put on a little bit of weight in the offseason. If you saw him in some of the preseason games, he was kind of pushing guys around. He had a little bit of more physicality to his game. I think that Wembanyama is going to be an MVP candidate this year. And I know he's already priced pretty aggressively to open up the season, but I want to be, I've kind of felt this way about Wemby throughout the last couple of years. I'd rather be early than late to him. And I like getting overweight to the field at a very low owned Wemby. If you want to differentiate a single entry lineup, throw Wemby as your pay up option in as opposed to Giannis.
Yeah, and apparently he also got taller. So, I mean, that doesn't hurt either with the amount of box. Like, their reports are that he's like 7'7" now. So, you know, NBA heights are always a little bit slow to update because I don't know why. But like the odd thing that he would grow more. But yeah, like for him, you know, the upside's huge. The one thing I worry about a little bit is like it does become a little Lord of the Fliesy when you have De'Aaron Fox out. Obviously, you're losing a lot of usage with him, but Vassell gets more shots up. You know, Dylan Harper in college was a high usage player in a way where like I kind of think he could end up taking away what Fox leaves behind. Stephon Castle loves to get shots up too when there is sort of that vacancy. So it's the only reason I feel like Wemby might not hit the ceilings we want to see from him, you know, game to game, is because like you got a lot of guys that enjoy getting shots up more than they probably should. A team where Wemby should probably have like 50% usage and just do absolutely everything.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox being out, that should also help for some of that usage to Wemby there. So, yeah, Wemby, and you see here also in the Sims, even though we got overweight to the field to a Giannis without making any adjustments, Wemby also somebody who we end up coming in overweight to the field to. Let's see what Discord has for us and some of those questions that are coming in there. And if you guys are a Stokastic sub, you signed up for that $1 deal, or maybe you took advantage of one of our longer term deals like the 20% off that we currently have as well. Because if you guys have tried out the $1 deal and maybe tomorrow when the package is up and you know you want to be here for a longer term, take advantage of this 20% off discount. Get 20% off any NBA monthly package with the promo code OKC. This is also good for any of our all access packages. So if you play NBA and you play NFL, this is great for you to take advantage of to get in on multiple packages. And then also the other sports that we have here are also included with the all access package, of course. NASCAR. We've got a big MMA card this weekend. We've got Tom Aspinall finally defending his heavyweight belt against Cyril Gahn. So we got a big MMA card this weekend. There's NASCAR, there's PGA. So go ahead and check out the all access package for 20% off with the promo code OKC if you play multiple DFS sports. And like I said, all of our packages do come with access to our Discord channel. And I'm going into the Discord channel right now to answer some of your questions. The first one here, it is Coach DFS asking us the same question that he asked us yesterday, Spags, which is, who are the single entry must plays for us today? Who is somebody you feel you absolutely have to go and roster in single entry? PJ Washington's an easy one. Who else beyond him?
I mean, I would say for me, for single entry, I'd be pretty comfortable moving away from Giannis. Like, my dog just keeps like having to climb up next to me every time I talk. It's like, we don't need to do a 2-man show here. She's not going to offer a lot of great DFS takes as a 9-month-old puppy. It's fucking driving me nuts. I do think Towns for me is a very interesting play, assuming he's in. I like his price tag at 8,500. Being without Mitchell Robinson, being without Josh Hart helps him out a good amount. I think he's a little bit over projected for me relative to Stokastic, but I had a lot of success with that last year where I kind of had Towns being a little bit higher than some of the industry in general. But I think in general for him, just having that center spot be the thing. Like, Ariel Hukporty's not going to do anything as a starter. Towns will absorb some more rebounds. He's historically played fairly well against Cleveland. I just feel like he's a guy for me that seems low owned, as the kind of guy in a single entry that might carry a little bit further.
I prefer Wemby to Cat if I'm going to go low owned at the center spot. I generally have some concerns about what Towns' playing time is going to be. First off, the most NBA big slate thing ever. Towns has had all of the injury statuses today and all of the coach speak. We have heard that he's been probable, questionable, and doubtful on the injury report. He was at one point doubtful and expected to play. He was doubtful and probable to play at another point. That we also heard like the hoping he was going to be able to play. We got all the coach speak, all of the injury designations. You thought with Tibbs gone, you were going to get, hey, maybe some normalcy to what the Knicks do with their situation. No, not the case at all. We saw all the things from Cat. But here's the other concern I have with Tibbs gone. Are we going to see the Knicks actually play a bench and play normal kind of starter minutes with Mike Brown as the coach? Because we are so accustomed to seeing guys like Jalen Brunson not being 100%. He plays 42 minutes anyway. Cat, not 100%. The game's a blowout. He goes to the locker room with a knee injury, and Tibbs throws him on the court down 25 with 2 minutes left. I'm a little concerned that we see normal rotations out of the Knicks when you consider they're actually sitting out 2 guys with injuries, Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson, on the first game of the season here. That makes me a little bit concerned with the upside of Cat when you consider that he has been banged up. He's had all these injury statuses today. Are you at all concerned that we see him play like 28 to 30 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned enough that like I'm capping him at a certain amount of ownership. I mean, I'm still probably going to be like 33 or so % for him, giving him a boost to try to get him in a little bit more because my projections sort of feel more strongly about him. But I agree. I mean, even the fact too that it is Mike Brown taking over as coach, the offense should look different. I still think Cat, when you just take a few pieces out there and, no pressure to chew anymore, like a lot of guys that have just kind of been floating around, like they don't really have a great rotation, barring playing guys like Huck Porty and Trey Jemison more than they should. And I guess it's possible they play a full 48, but even then, like Towns is going to get high 20s minutes to 30. I think at 8,500, I just like the price tag, and also power forward center helps out a little bit. But yeah, look, I think you're right that there's some risk there. The matchup just seems like the total when Towns is ruled back in that weird back and forth, like it went from 3.5 to 1.5. I think there's pretty decent market support for Knicks keeping competitive and Towns theoretically being a part of that.
Yeah, and for me, it's, there's just a lot of guys to like on the slate. So I'm rerunning the Sims right now, but yeah, I got a couple of lineups with Towns last time. Not somebody that I'd be playing in single entry as like a core option for me. I'd rather, if I'm going to be contrarian, go to the Victor Wembanyama side. One other guy as well, his ownership has come down over the course of the day. Earlier, he was expected to be super popular, still pulling some ownership, but not quite as much. Another really strong value option, but in the backcourt, as opposed to the front court option, PJ Washington. Walter Clayton, who was an excellent college player, ended up really raising his draft stock over the course of the NCAA tournament. I think that he's going to have not like a 30-minute per game role or anything like that for Utah, but he's going to have a relatively sizable backup role. And I think he profiles as being somebody who should be a pretty good point spread and fantasy producer. So I like going stars and scrubs for tonight. And my 2 favorite value options, it's PJ Washington in the front court and Walter Clayton in the backcourt. Earlier in the day, I think it was maybe a little bit tricky with Clayton when he was projected for like 40% ownership. And now that ownership is more around 20% Spags, I do like the idea of going Washington, Clayton, and then just paying up for like 2-3 guys in each lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of Clayton sim-wise, 59% exposure in the sim I ran here. Field at 21 feels pretty aggressive. Javon Small came down a little bit, I believe, in the most recent run, and I think that's making Clayton come up a little bit more. And I think those guys have similar things going for them, where in college, about a 25% usage rate, a little bit higher for Small, but also Clayton, being in that range, about a 25% assist rate as well for Clayton. Like, that's the kind of fantasy production you're looking for, where he's going to contribute in both those categories. I believe his true shooting was also above 60% last year. So even if it falls a little bit in the NBA, you're still talking about an average, maybe above average shooter if he really does stuff well. And just not having Collier too, like there's minutes to go around, even though, Keontae George, I feel like if they go back to falling in love with him, he does sort of eat from the minutes played of Walter Clayton. Walter Clayton just seems like the kind of guy in the spot, the Clippers being a much better team. Like you might luck out to blowout minutes, but even if not, you're getting the backup minutes pretty much no matter what.
Yeah, so Walter Clayton, another one for me. Anybody else you'd consider? It's a big slate, so it's kind of hard to look at guys and be like, oh, that's a lock that I absolutely need in a single entry. But yeah, I would say I like PJ Washington for value. I like Walter Clayton for value. Somebody on the upper mid range that I'm also pretty high on this year, who has modest ownership for today. Maybe it's like a little bit of a counter to your Cat play because it's in a similar price range. I think Zion is also in line for a really big season. Zion is somebody who, when healthy, has really shown signs of becoming that star player. And just because the health has been so down for him, I think a lot of the public has kind of given up on Zion. Obviously, the never-ending fat jokes and Weight Watchers jokes, those have been prevalent ever since he entered the season. But kind of like Luka, he looks pretty trim coming into the season, looks to be in the best shape he's ever been in. And a lot of times it's kind of a meme or a joke, guys claiming to be in the best shape of their lives. But from the eye test, it actually does appear to be true when it comes to Zion. He says this is the most he's enjoyed playing basketball in quite some time. And I think that the caveat being, if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be an all-star, and I think he's going to have a really good year for the Pelicans. I want to be overweight to the field to Zion to open up the season. And I like that he's also modestly priced and only coming in at 20% owned to open the season. So there's somebody else who I'm overweight to the field to that's a pretty strong single entry option for me. Do you have any kind of interest in Zion for the slate?
Yeah, I actually like Zion a lot. He projects really well for me. Stokastic too, giving him 26% in the top 150. I'm getting Fields at 20, so a little bit of a stand in favor there. I think, the only thing that I think is a little bit of a concern point / just a question mark is, what does Jordan Poole do? He seems really weirdly overpriced on DraftKings. Trey Murphy taking a leap as well, but you do have DeJounte Murray still not available. You have Zion, again, I agree, looking relatively svelte and also at sort of a crossroads in his career where it does seem like he has to, assert himself a little bit more. Frankly, when he played last year, I mean, he was still pretty good, averaging about 1.5 fantasy points per minute. The issue with him has always been the health part, not so much his own ability, and facing a Memphis team that does play at pretty good pace, one of the fastest paced teams in the league last year. It just feels like a pretty good Zion spot, barring him being too skinny now to handle Jaren Jackson Jr., I guess. But I think he's got enough meat on the bones, Greg. I think we could still be okay.
That would be the funniest outcome of all this, is if people start criticizing Zion. We're like, he's too thin now. He can't, how is he going to guard Chet Holmgren when he's this skinny? Like, people are going to all of a sudden be like, look how emaciated Zion Williamson is. And it goes the total opposite direction. But yeah, I think that this should really help him to stay healthy over the course of the season. Let's see what kind of super chats we have. A couple that came in here. One is from Amy. All right, Amy wants to know tiers picks. So I'm going to have to pull up tiers right here now on my phone, Spags. I will read off some of these names to you as we go, and we'll figure out who it is that collectively we like the most amongst these tier options. Starting in tier 1, it is Giannis, Wemby, Cade Cunningham, Trae Young. So for tiers, we don't have to worry about prices or positions or anything like that. I'm going to go Giannis for tier 1.
Yeah, I think, the game theory of tiers, I think you would just still take Giannis and not try to get too cute up top.
Tier 2, we've got Anthony Davis, LaMelo Ball, Devin Booker, and John Morant. That is going to be Anthony Davis for me.
Yeah, I think that'd be Anthony Davis.
All right. Tier 3, we've got James Harden, Anthony Edwards, the aforementioned Zion Williamson, Donovan Mitchell, and Josh Giddey. That is going to be Zion for me.
Zion for me as well.
Tier 4. All right. There's a little bit of a drop off here and an interesting talking point, because one of these names from a DFS standpoint is not like the others in terms of who we would think of as a tier 4 sort of player, but Tyrese Maxey. We also have Joel Embiid in tier 4. We've got Jalen Johnson, Nikola Vucevic. We've got Evan Mobley and Jaylen Brown for tonight. So amongst these options, I'm going to say Joel Embiid. I know that I'm anticipating that Joel Embiid is going to have a minutes restriction, but I still more often than not would expect him to outscore guys like Vooch or Evan Mobley on a slate like this. But what do you make of the minutes and the playing time for Joel Embiid to open up the season?
I mean, I would say it's always a concern. Again, the reports are that he looks okay at practice from stuff that's been coming from local reporters, but I don't know how much that's sort of willful optimism / how he looks in practice versus a game where you're actually going full speed and having to compete and bang and all that. But, I'm not the biggest Embiid fan. I'll certainly try to be with the field on him. I would favor Jaylen Brown out of that tier personally, obviously assuming that he plays, him being a game time decision. Another one of the not ideal things in flux. But he is a guy that's produced incredibly well when there has been Jason Tatum off the court. Now you're also adding, no Drew, no Porzingis. It's a lot of guys that are just gone from Boston now. And he's averaged 35% usage without Tatum and those guys, 32% assist rate, 1.25 fantasy points a minute. We're not talking about that Giannis tier in terms of fantasy point expectation, but I think he can produce well, assuming that he's healthy and going, and the matchup doesn't scare me either. So I like Jaylen Brown more than I think the public does tonight.
Yeah, and to be clear too, people in the chat saying it's been announced he's on minutes restriction. Yeah, the question is really though, how restrictive is that minutes restriction? Because you hear coaches say, guy is on a minutes restriction, or we're watching a guy's minutes, we're monitoring a guy's minutes. But when they don't give us an actual number, that's a really wide range of outcomes there, because if Joel Embiid played 32 minutes, that could still technically be called a minutes restriction. If he played 20 minutes, that could also still be obviously a minutes restriction. I think he's like mid to upper 20s minutes, but at least for tier 4, that's enough for me to consider him there. Is he somebody you're playing in classic contests at all, Joel Embiid?
Let me see where I'm at in the sim with him. I mean, look, for my personal projection, I do have him a little bit lower than Stokastic does, so I don't think in my final numbers he'll be quite as high, but I got him at 30% in the top 150 with Stokastic data and 17% ownership. So look, I think he's a solid enough play. I just have had Embiid low for basically all of last year, and I kind of had to juke his numbers last year to get him close to where everybody else in the industry had him. And that didn't often work out that well. So I'm kind of just letting him ride as being a guy that projects fairly well, but Cat's the guy I'm getting more of. So I'm going to die on that hill, unfortunately.
The next tier is tier 5. We've got Cat, we've got Brunson, we've got Scotty Barnes, Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach LaVine, Denny Avdia. I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson in tier 5.
I think Brunson for me too. I still, again, like Cat, but I think Brunson projects fairly well. And I would say, in a tier thing where you're not playing Towns, Brunson's going to look better anyway.
And then finally, tier 6, it is Paulo Banchero. It is Ivica Zubats. By the way, OG Anunoby will play today. Cat also officially ruled in. So we've got all of that confirmed now from the Knicks side of things. But Banchero, Zubats, Kawhi Leonard, Julius Randle, Mark Williams, Derek White. We've got Shaden Sharp and Alex Sarr making his way into tier 6. It's going to be Paulo Banchero for me.
Yeah, I would take Paolo. I don't love him as in a regular classic, I guess, format play quite as much, because I think there's a lot of competition bringing Bane into that rotation and having Suggs available tonight. But for tiers, I think he's the best of that group.
Jeff Williams wants to talk about some of the rookies playing today, and then mention some of the ones that he finds to be most relevant for DFS today. And I can't remember a time to open the season where there were this many rookies that were DFS viable, Spags, especially on a 12-game slate. Like, I look at some of my exposures, and we've already talked about getting exposure to Walter Clayton, but same. I think Kalkbrenner is another one who's a viable value option. The only knock against him is that he's center only eligible on DraftKings, but I think he's a good value option. I think Walter Clayton's a good value option. VJ Edgecombe in the mid-range, I think that he's also a viable play. Cooper Flagg more so on the FanDuel side of things. And I know, Jeff, that you play on DraftKings, but for FanDuel players, we're talking about some of the top value options. I think Cooper Flagg certainly over on FanDuel. But yeah, I think all of those guys, Kalkbrenner, Clayton, Edgecombe, trying to see if there's anybody else who really makes their way into a bunch of my lineups. Not a lot, but those 3 guys are all ones who are in at least a chunk of my lineup. So, are there any other rookies that are making their way into your lineups?
I mean, Clayton's definitely the most noteworthy one. Edgecombe, I really don't love the price tag at 5K. I know that he flashed a little in the preseason, but now we're talking about getting this full rotation in, having to integrate Embiid for whatever amount of minutes he's playing. Maxi's still going to be very ball dominant. Grimes, I don't know what he's playing for. I don't know how he's going to handle his situation, but he'll still be out there a good amount. I don't love that price tag for Edgecombe right now. I think it's a more appropriate price tag when you get some guys inevitably that'll be out for Philadelphia. But yeah, I think Clayton to me the most important one. Kalkbrenner, I really didn't get to as much of as the field. I got him in 15% in the sim I ran for Stokastic data. I got 26. I feel like to me 10 to 20 feels like about enough for Kalkbrenner, and he played decent minutes in the preseason. I'm not sold on him as much. Like, I feel like I'd rather get. I would rather get PJ Washington than all these guys, but I think I'd rather get Clayton and Kalkbrenner and some of the other cheap plays, I guess, too.
Jaylen Brown is in, which is a little bit of a surprise to me, just because I was doing some of it. Now I wish I would have bet it, but I was doing some of my spreads earlier in the day, Spags, and the line was 3.5. And I was going ahead. I set my own spread and I got it as Celtics -7. So I was like, boy, they must really think that Jaylen Brown isn't going to play today. And now Jaylen Brown's in. The lines are down. I assume they're going to open back up at like somewhere between 6 and 7 points or something like that for that game. But Jaylen Brown left a preseason game with a hamstring injury. He was listed as questionable, with the Celtics, already being banged up, with things like Jason Tatum being out for the majority of the season with the Achilles injury. I thought they were going to be more on the conservative side with Jaylen Brown, but apparently not the case with him in. What does that do to any of the Boston guys for you, or maybe any kind of stance on Jaylen Brown? I was thinking he was going to end up sitting.
Yeah, I was getting more than the field of Jaylen Brown. I was getting him at 25% in my lineups. Not so much with Stokastic data, so this is more of a me take than a Stokastic one. So please treat it accordingly and defer to the site that's winning the people all the money. And even guys that don't even send screenshots are winning so much money that I don't even get them on Twitter. But I think for how it looks for Jaylen Brown, like, again, he's been really good when Tatum's been off the court, and you're taking Tatum, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Horford out of this rotation. I think a lot of it does come back to Jaylen Brown. I wish he were the price tags when we would have those guys out last year, or he's like a 7K range, and it's like, wow, this is basically a free square on the slate. But I do think he's got the upside. I think the matchup versus Philadelphia, the totals seem pretty competitive. Boston having 117.3 with really a lack of a rotation at this point outside of Jaylen Brown, of Derek White, and of Peyton Pritchard. And Simon Sue will obviously contribute a little bit, but like his Portland stint doesn't make me think he's going to go nuts in Boston unless he gets incredibly coached up and plays more efficiently. I like Jaylen Brown a good amount. It's a single-digit ownership guy. He's one of the guys I'm using to cut some of my chalkier lineups today, and I'm happy to have him in. Would have been also nice to have him out because Derek White and Peyton Pritchard would have actually looked playable.
Want to remind you guys to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us out a whole bunch here, helps keep our content free and supports. And then also, if you want more free content from us, head on over to tails.bet or download the Tails app. Follow me, follow DK, follow Eric, follow Lofty, follow Ben Raza, follow all of us over there. We post a ton of free content over to Tails. Eric also has a premium package. Ben has a premium package. So if you guys want more content from us beyond some of the free picks, you could also pay for some of their packages. And over on Tails, I've also got my bankroll thread going up there. So last year, I started with $100 using the OddsShopper Portfolio EV tools and just used the bet size recommendations and posted all of the bets that I did recommended from the tools, starting the year at $100, finished the year right around $1,500. I'm doing that again this year, starting at $100, but doing it over on Tails. So if you want to follow that for free, download the Tails app, turn on notifications, and if you really enjoy the experience, it would help us out a whole bunch. You left a review while you're there. Just leave us a nice 5-star review. That helps push the app to more people and helps us grow the platform to add even more little features to it to make it a better experience for you. So that would very much be appreciated if you guys could do that for us if you're enjoying the Tails app. Let's see the super chats here. Eric Goodwin, top 3 plays on the slate, not named PJ Washington. So Spags, can't say PJ Washington here. That's cheating in the eyes of Eric Goodwin. And you could take this however you want. Like, obviously, Giannis is a really strong option, but I'm kind of in line with the field on him. So maybe don't want to give him as a top option in that way, just because, just giving some other chalky play out who I'm not really all that much different from the field. But however you want to take this, who would you call your top 3 plays on the slate?
I mean, I would say the guys that I'm going to be the most above on would be Zion, Towns, and Jaylen Brown, which is a little bit scary because I'm giving up some late swapability. If Eric were here, he'd go, no, late swap, and he'd cry, and it'd be a whole thing. But, for me, I like those players a lot. They grade out well. I like the builds you have when you don't pay all the way up for Giannis and play a bunch of guys in those 8 to 10K ranges, let's say. So those are my 3, but I don't think that's necessarily the data 3. Cade Cunningham too, not that far off either. Got a lot of Cade.
All right, so let me look at some of the guys who ended up getting overweight to here. One of them for me, Walter Clayton's ownership keeps going down. He's at 15% now. So I don't really feel like a pussy if I said Walter Clayton. I'm not recommending some super chalk guy anymore. Walter Payton's down to 15% owned. So I'll go to Walter Clayton as one of mine. I am also going to throw in Zion as one of my other picks here. And I'm getting Jalen Tyson showing up in a good amount of lineups now as well with DeAndre Hunter out. So I'll throw Jalen Tyson into the mix at $3,200. Good position eligibility at shooting guard, small forward.
Yeah, I'm getting Jalen Tyson now too. And that was not That was not part of my ideal plan. I'll never forget though that one game where he put up like 60. It was the Antonio Reeves Pelicans game, I think, where it was like a bunch of assholes went for 60 points, and Jalen Tyson was one of those assholes. But he hustles out there. I'll tell you what, that guy goes after every loose ball. That's the kind of guy you want to play at 3,200.
Yeah, or as you would say, somebody who looks like the Tails logo.
That's exactly that's the way I promote Tails. That's why they don't want me on the platform.
Yeah, it came up. Actually, you are on the platform because you sold some. You did your best ball stuff there. Came up in a meeting when I was talking with Tom earlier about your which, by the way, you are not the only one who had that feedback on the Tails logo. But you guys go check out Tails for yourself and let us know what you think of the logo. JR says top. Okay, this is very specific. Top 3 6 to 7K options on DK, please, regardless of ownership and position. All right, so who are just the top 3 guys I have the most exposure to between 6 and 7K? Boy, that's kind of a weak price range, but Michael Porter Jr. is one of them for me. He's in line for extra usage this year because he's playing on a dog shit basketball team where this might even be the role for Michael Porter Jr. Maybe he will thrive being on a terrible basketball team where he could just chuck shots when he feels like it. He could be the him and Cam Thomas could be the worst Batman and Robin in the league where they're just like, hey, look at how wildly inefficient we could be shooting a bunch of shots. But Michael Porter Jr. is one of them for me. Let's see. In between 6 and 7K. This is a really tough price range today.
I've got Middleton. I'm getting more than I would like to admit, but there is a usage to go around there, unfortunately. So he's one for me. Klingon at center, I got 16% of, so I think he would be one. I agree that range is not coming up a ton overall. And Anunoby. I think Anunoby is my 3rd highest exposed in that 6 to 7K range.
Keontae George is the other one for me. I was just going through my exposures and seeing who else I landed on. But Keontae George at $6,100, another one. Between that 6 and 7K range, we've got one here. How much Jalen Tyson do I have? And then is he starting? So we do have overall some news on the Cleveland Cavaliers, which we touched on right at the top of the show. But yes, we actually do have Jalen Tyson starting for Cleveland, and that is going to be because DeAndre Hunter is out for today. So Jalen Tyson starting, Hunter is out. I've got Tyson in about half my lineups right now, Spags. I'm going to do one more update as we get, final projections and ownership leading into lock, but Jalen Tyson looks like one of the better value options on the night.
Yeah, I mean, I got him into, looks like about 32% of the lineups I'm putting in. So I think that's more than I was emotionally prepared for. But, shooting guard, small forward, that helps out a lot.
Yeah, and when guys are starting and they're that cheap, and also it's not like he's a terrible fantasy producer, it's kind of hard for them to do too much damage to you, meaning that it's very unlikely that you lose the slate because you played a chunk of Jalen Tyson. He might not win you the slate, but if he goes out and has a bad game relative to his price and scores like 10, 12 fantasy points, it's not going to kill you either. So I like going stars and scrubs on slates like this, and he is definitely somebody who's going to fit into the stars and scrubs sort of archetype. For this,
they're definitely not in the PJ Washington tier. I feel like we should just to say it for anybody who's tuning in late and you're panicking. PJ Washington, priority number 1. Everybody else, your Tysons, your Claytons, those are all priority number 2, 3, like much further down the list.
Sifed Super wants to know thoughts on Booker and Cam Thomas for tonight. So I'm doing one more update right now. If I remember correctly, I was sub 10% on both of them in my last run. In a lot of ways, they're kind of similar in terms of guys who are going to be on really poor basketball teams, but are pretty good fantasy producers and are going to have the opportunity to shoot a whole bunch. The issue I have with both of them is on Booker's side, I think there's better pay-up options. And then on Cam Thomas's side, I think this is such a strong stars and scrub slate that mid-range just doesn't make its way into very many of my lineups. It's going cheap with guys like PJ Washington, Jalen Tyson, Walter Clayton, then paying up for the stars. And that's how you get some of the highest projected and the highest overall sim ROI lineups on the slate. It's often on slates that are 12 games. The mid-range kind of falls by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think those guys have upside, but I only got 6% of them. I'd be a Devin Booker competitive game environment there. Cam Thomas, I think you're just hoping you hit on the outlier game and him playing angry for a new contract. But introducing Michael Porter to that lineup, another guy who will take whatever shots he wants, and a lot of volatility with the rookies. Like the rookies, they spent decent draft capital on, and I don't really know what to expect from some of them besides Denim. I think kind of looks like, or Demeen rather, kind of looks like a young Josh Giddey type from what I've seen. But even that, I don't know. Like, I think we got to see how it goes here. And I think it's probably not great for Cam Thomas to have any sort of unknown quantity, given how dependent he is on just scoring endlessly.
Yeah, so I think that we are pretty much on the same page there. Thank you for the super chat, Saif. And then we've got Jacob. Jacob Dunn wants to know, better play of the three, Whitmore, Knuppel, or Sexton? Do you have a strong take on this one?
I would vote none. I think I got Whitmore 22.7, Knuppel 17.9. Sexton, I have Sexton at 24. No thanks. I guess Sexton, but I like Whitmore. Whitmore is definitely going to get his, I think, enough on this offense from what all the offseason reports and innuendos have been.
I'll go with Knuppel here, mostly just because of price point. But it's not really a strong vote of confidence. But like we said before, we're answering questions about the rookies. There's a lot of rookies that are going to play pretty significant roles right out of the gate here.
Yeah. I think there's just better plays than that. But I get trying to get unique and maybe avoid some of the buzzy options.
Pierre just joined. Top plays at each position on FanDuel, and thanks. Yes, I'll go back to the FanDuel lineups that I had built out here on screen, and we'll go position by position here, going over some of the top options. First at point guard on FanDuel, Kevin Porter Jr. Peyton Pritchard was somebody who, particularly if Jaylen Brown was out, he was going to show up in just a ton of lineups. Still a really strong option, but not quite the same. So I'll say a Kevin Porter Jr. and then a Dante DiVincenzo as well, with him taking on more of a starter role this year, and Mike Conley as a veteran taking a little bit more of a back seat. All these guys also have shooting guard eligibility, by the way, so it's kind of the same options. At small forward, here was somebody who showed up in a lot of lineups at the tail end of last year as well, but for good reason. I think Asar Thompson, while not the same caliber of prospect as his brother, is still somebody who is a very good DFS option, particularly on FanDuel because of the defensive stats he adds. And then Cooper Flagg also just opens up the season way underpriced on the FanDuel side of things. At power forward, you also get to Giannis as a pay-up option. Center's a little bit more spread out, but Jaren Jackson Jr. at $7,700. Another guy, if he is able to avoid foul trouble, always a much better FanDuel fantasy producer than DraftKings because of the defensive stats he puts up. So I'd say that those are the some of the top overall points per dollar options on FanDuel. I think you could also add Jalen Tyson to the mix, although he wasn't as relevant on the last Sims run that I did there for FanDuel, but and still does look better overall on DraftKings, but still strong option on the FanDuel side of things for you there, Pierre. And then Jeff wants to know for tonight, all right, Tyson, PJ Washington, Michael Porter Jr., Kalkbrenner, Booker, Giannis, Zion. Thoughts? Sims, if possible, playing the 888. My first thoughts here, I think that's a pretty solid looking lineup. I'll guarantee that Sims out well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like the Saraf, Kalkbrenner, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I like Giannis and Zion. I like Booker enough. Michael Porter Jr. is not really on my radar for the day. I think there's upside there, but I really don't think he's one of my guys.
I have 15% of him. He's somebody who I've got. There's some opportunity there for him. Should have more usage this year in the shitty Nets offense, as opposed to the Nets are going to be the worst team to watch in the NBA this year. That is going to be an unwatchable team. It is just going to be Cam Thomas dribbling a ton. Michael Porter Jr. taking a lot of bad shots early in the shot clock. But yeah, those guys are going to produce a little bit for fantasy purposes. I think that's a good looking lineup, Jeff. Sean Raza here wants to know from us, any thoughts on Dylan Harper for FanDuel GPPs? Will it give me some leverage? I don't think Dylan Harper is necessary on FanDuel. Of all of the rookies who I like getting to today, Harper isn't quite one of them.
I think Harper's an interesting conceptual player because he really was a monster in college. He took up a lot of usage, had a very high assist rate as well. I think there's opportunity there, but it's hard for me to say for game one at his price tag. Same thing as Edgecombe. I would like to have them be a little bit cheaper, the amount of uncertainty there, but just what the role is day one. And I think FanDuel too, I would think he's more of a DK play because I expect more usage threes than I do steals. But if you like him, I think he's super talented, and obviously he went real high for a reason. Not having Fox out, maybe there's a chance he gets a lot of run, but you feel a lot better about it if you knew he was going to start or something like that.
There's also so many redundant players in the San Antonio rotation now. It surely helps a little bit that Fox is out to start the year, but at some point they're going to have to. I don't like that they really gave Fox that extension. I get they traded for him, and he's pretty keen on playing there, so I'm sure that played a role because he kind of forced his way there. But I just think they've got all these guys between Fox and Harper and Castle, who had a solid rookie season, really came on towards the end of the year. There's a lot of redundancy there, and I do worry that at least out of the gate, that's something that is going to hold Harper back. He doesn't have the same opportunity that a lot of the other rookies have right out of the gate. By the way, Saraf is starting for the Nets today.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that definitely would make him look a little bit better. I still don't have a great projection on him with 20 minutes, so Saraf not one of my guys, but I know Josh mentioned him, and I obviously think the world of Josh. I'll say that publicly, not behind his back. But yeah, I think Saraf, I think he's a credible enough play for sure.
Yeah, and by the way, that was the Nets starting lineup. It's Saraf, Cam Thomas, Terrence Mann, Michael Porter Jr., Nick Claxton. It's not that he's the strongest value option on the slate or anything like that, but I think he's a viable in-play guy for today. All right, Mr. Cool Kim wanted to know favorite FanDuel plays at each position. We just hit on that. Lucky wants to know anybody that we're boosting in the Sims, anybody that you're going out of your way to boost for tonight, Spags.
No, I kind of get enough of my guys naturally through using my own projection set. So, but the guys I'm above and higher on than Stokastic, Towns, Zion, Jaylen Brown, definitely the most noteworthy ones. Walter Clayton, I would get, I think, a pretty good amount no matter what. But yeah, those three, my big three that I'm dying on the hill of are the Zion, Towns, and Jaylen Brown tier.
Wemby for me. I want to make sure that I get a little bit of Wemby. So he's somebody I'm boosting. Zion's another one as well. For me, like you just naturally get to a lot of the cheap guys in the Sims. I just want to get to a little bit more of some of the expensive guys like Zion or Wemby that I like a little bit of. Let's see. What do we have next? M. Grizzly wants to know any boosts that we're making in preparations for news. So with it being the first big main slate of the entire season, we don't have that many injury situations that we're really waiting on here, even though we do have all of the games later throughout the night that are included on the slate. Anthony Edwards is technically officially questionable. I don't know about you, Spags. I don't really have too much concern about Anthony Edwards sitting. And beyond him, there aren't any other key players who are questionable. So I don't feel like I need to backload my lineups. But are you doing anything to account for Anthony Edwards being questionable, or do you think he's somebody who's really at risk of missing the game?
No, I mean, he went through shoot around. He's not really a thing that I care too much about on the slate. Like I'm getting DiVincenzo. If Anthony Edwards were out, that DiVincenzo amount that I'm getting would look even better. But he's not really a play that's factoring in for me very much. The price tag's a little bit too high. And I get, he's got big upside. If you want to hold that ship and see if you're, want to ride it out to the end of the night, I think that's a fair thing to do. But there's so many guys to go to on the slate. Like I would take Booker above him, and I barely got Booker.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Super chat from Sunflower. Who we prefer, Landale or Kalkbrenner for DraftKings? That is Kalkbrenner for me.
Who's the first? Landale was the first half?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Jock Landale was the first one.
I think I would go Landale, but I really don't think either option's that bad.
And getting back to Discord, Go Tigers wants to know how many uniques he should be using for today. So here's where uniques are different for a slate like this. I'm not going to tell you not to use them or anything like that. It's just not going to do very much because we have so many options on the slate. So look, I'll show as an example here. If we unfavorite the top lineups here, if I set the uniques to say 3, which is, a pretty decent amount of uniques, and then go 150 lineups. So actually 3 uniques did make a little bit of a difference. So maybe the data just proved me wrong right here. If I go 2 uniques, so 2 uniques does almost nothing on a slate of this size. It's just all the same lineups. So if you want to diversify, you could go up to 3. Let's see something. All right, if we go 150 with no uniques, what's the lowest sim ROI lineup that shows up in the top 150? It is. All right, so the 150th lineup has a 52.1% sim ROI. Let's see if I put it on 3. If I go to 3, the lowest sim ROI lineup in this set ends up having a sim ROI of, scrolling to the bottom, 38.1, not all that much different. So yeah, I thought that on a slate of this size, maybe the uniques wouldn't make that much of a difference. It is definitely a personal preference in terms of how much you want your lineups to be diversified. I would say if you want to mix up a little bit, probably 2 for a slate like this would be a reasonable way to go. But not something that you absolutely have to use for a slate of this size. I did use it last night for a 2-game slate to diversify my lineups a little bit, though. Let's see what else
I
we
went
got.
4 for myself, but obviously personal preference on that. For me, it's like I use more uniques to cut the plays I feel a little bit over vulnerable on. So, but yeah, I think 4 you can get away. Just the main thing to me, we talked about yesterday, check your favorites, make sure that your bottom lineups don't have a bunch of negative ROIs, because that's always the biggest issue when you put on too many uniques.
I also personally, I don't want to get away from PJ Washington today. Like I don't want to do something where I try to make my lineups too diverse and then I'm just playing lineups without PJ Washington. I'm personally pretty comfortable with locking him in. Somebody had asked that earlier as well about what we're doing in terms of exposure caps. I have no issue with 100% of PJ Washington today. Did you land on 100% of him?
Yeah, I've got 100 too. I mean, I think part of me wants to get too cute and just be like, I'll just be willing to lose half my money and play half the lineups without him, but I didn't do that because it just makes it easier, especially when you would lie before lock.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be he's the strongest play of the season to this point so far at mid price.
He's killing it.
Yeah. Let's see what else we've got. ModDubT is normally getting a lot of guys like Jalen Tyson, Walter Clayton in the Sims. Yeah, I've got Jalen Tyson in about half my lineups. I've got Walter Clayton in about a third of my lineups. I don't have any issue with that at all, that being some of the exposures there.
Yeah, I got 44% Clayton, 32% Tyson. So I am there with you guys on those 2 today.
And the next question here, JT Mack wants to know the cash game locks. All right, cash game locks, super, super easy. Cash game lock, PJ Washington, play him. Play Giannis as a pay-up option. I also think that getting to Kalkbrenner, getting to Jalen Tyson, I think you want to have all 4 of those guys in cash. Washington, Giannis, Kalkbrenner, Jalen Tyson, and then the next most popular pay-up options, you could probably fit Cade and Anthony Davis into that lineup as well at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if you can fit all those guys, great. Edgecombe, not that far off, and he's 5K, so he might be a reasonable cash game play. And honestly, I might be a better cash game play than a tournament play in how I view him.
Let's see what else we have for questions. M. Grizzly wants to know how much Kalkbrenner is too much. I mean, I've got Kalkbrenner more than half my lineups. I think I'm a little bit higher on him than what Spags is, but I don't have an issue with loading up on Kalkbrenner. And I'm also not, even though that I know he's going to be locking early, it's so much different on day 1 of the season versus say like day 100 of the season where there's a lot of late swap opportunities. I just don't think we're going to see that many guys ruled out post lock, if any, on day 1 of the season.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. And I like having the flexibility just because there might be some weird starters later on. But I'm giving it my flexibility for a more expensive guy in Towns. So giving away for Kalkbrenner will hurt you less than Towns will if he doesn't work out for me.
And David Castillo here, he wants to have us look at his lineup. White, Clayton, Tyson, PJ Washington, Giannis, Mitchell, Zion, Kalkbrenner. Assuming you mean Derek White, now that we have Jaylen Brown confirmed in, out of my top 150 lineups, Derek White's only in 1 of them. So I don't love Derek White, but all of those other pieces of the lineup are guys who have a pretty decent amount of exposure to. Let's see. Is there a comparable pivot who I like more outside of Derek White? If he's just all you could fit into $8,300, it's not like there's a point guard I like more to get to.
I would upgrade White to Jaylen Brown and take whatever else you got.
I think the issue there, though, is that it looks like he's got him in the point guard spot. So I'm just
I don't
looking at
care. Find a way to do it, David. that's I think he's the better play. And like he's low enough owned. Like I think you play White if you thought Jaylen Brown was gonna be chalky. Nobody's gonna play Jaylen Brown. So play the better Celtic would be just my opinion how to approach it. But I get that the positionality may not work out.
And this is just about going to bring us to lock. Want to remind you guys, if you have not done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do have our $1 deal that is going to be ending tonight, the SGA promo. At this point, you know, if you guys haven't signed up for it, you're probably not going to. But just want to remind you, it is an option, $1, promo code SGA to get our tools for $1 for tonight. But then also, tomorrow, you signed up for your $1 SGA deal. It expires. You're trying to figure out what you want to re-up for a new package at. Sign up for a monthly package, 20% off with the promo code OKC. We're going to be running this deal until next Tuesday. This will get you 20% off any NBA monthly package. It'll get you 20% off any monthly all-access package. So take advantage of that as well. And then in just about 30, 15 seconds, whatever it is here, Spags, I'm going to be joining Josh over on Playback. We're going to be doing our first Playback late swap show of the season. So if there is anything crazy that ends up breaking, Josh and I, we're going to be watching the games, sweating them over there. And then we're also going to be, reacting to any news that breaks, maybe giving out some bets there. But for yourself, Spags, anything you want to tell the people where to find you or anything like that before Josh and I head on over to Playback?
Oh yeah, check out if you want more NBA content from me, my @SplashPlayBets channel. I go live at 2 p.m. every day, so kind of the perfect appetizer to the deeper dive, live before lock shows that come up and hopefully add enough value. But check it out @SplashPlayBets every day at 2 p.m. And I'm back tomorrow with Laffy on the NFL Showdown. Tomorrow it's going to be my first NBA NFL crossover day, which, as you know, Greg, some of that is also by Sportual. We gotta really get our brains working a lot harder when you got to do 2 sports at once.
Yeah, I will be on, I'm doing NFL Live Before Lock tomorrow. It is Josh and Eric on NBA Live Before Lock for the Thursday slate tomorrow. But it'll be, I wish the NBA would have spaced, like, do we have to do 2 games, 12 games, then 2 games? And then I think it's like another 10 or 12 games on Friday. It would have been cool if we, got 4 slates of like 6 to 8 games instead of the way it's like a lot of games, no games, a lot of games, no games. But we'll have it all covered tomorrow, guys. If you haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then also, come join Josh and I over in Playback. I am going to drop the Playback link into the YouTube chat right now so that you guys can join us over there. And I will see you. Oh, actually, let me see. Is the Playback thing still working? If I go Playback, the exclamation mark.
Be careful what you play over there, Greg. I hear there's.
Yeah, I know that it is. I've run into issues with that before, but I've got it figured out now. No issues. Here's the link. I'm dropping it in. Thanks to Paul. He also said he dropped the link. And so, all right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Join Josh and I over on Playback. And also, this is still going to be simulcasting over to YouTube. You can't watch the games on YouTube with us, but the YouTube stream is still going to be running. So if you guys do want to stick around the YouTube chat, that works as well. See you guys in Playback.
All right. Bye, Greg.